Call this meeting to order. This is the Livingston Parish Council meeting. Today is January the 10th, 2019. This time we'll have our invocation. I'd like to turn that over to Mr. Jeff Ard and Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse. All stand.
We're going to ask our bond attorney, Mr. Jim Ryan.
Financial advisor.
Financial advisor. I was going to see if you caught that because you said you could play an attorney.
Pray with me, please. Most gracious and loving Father, first we want to thank you for all the blessings you bestow upon us each and every day, Lord. We ask that you would help us not take those blessings for granted. The many things we have, most of all for the blood of Lord, we ask that you be with wisdom, give them wisdom, guidance, and help them do the work of the parish for the best of the people. We also ask that you be with Governor, Congress, the U.S. Senate, give them guidance. In Jesus' name we ask these things. Amen.
Amen. All right, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Jeff Avery, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would ask that everybody take a moment and silence their cell phones. We don't need any cell phone interruptions during the meeting. All right. Miss Sandy, can you call the roll?
Mr. Gerlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Averett.
Here.
Mr. Liville.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Present.
Hey, Bubba, how you doing way down there? All right, public input. I'd like to say anyone wishing to address any agenda items is welcome to do so. We have a large house tonight. We're going to limit everybody to 3 minutes. We ask that you don't repeat yourself. If somebody before you has already addressed your concern on that particular agenda item, then we, ask that you, don't repeat that same concern. Okay? All right. Agenda item number 7, presentations. We don't have any presentations tonight, but I would like to say something. First of all, I'd like to thank anyone who had anything to do with making me the Livingston Parish Council Chair in 2019. I look forward to doing a good job, and I'm very appreciative. I would also like to say and give a special thanks to Mr. Chris Moody, our legal counsel for the last 3 years, who has not taken sides, but has always guided us in the right direction when it comes to doing what's right within the law. I thank him very much for his service. I'd also like to say that as a young man, a young adult, and a young elected official that truly cares about the citizens of Livingston Parish, that we need mentors in our life. Mentors that have worked hard, paid their taxes, been through the hard times, and that can help young adults be led in good directions. In saying that, I've been given the authority, so I've been told, to rearrange seating arrangements. So at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Bubba Harris to sit at my side through 2019 to help guide me in the right direction as we go through these council meetings. And I'd like for him and Mr. Chris Moody to swap places. Good job, man. Keep on here. Sneak out better this way.
I don't blame you.
Sneak in better too.
I'd rather switch places than me. Closer to the feet.
I didn't get
There you go, Mr. Griff. Yeah. There's bubbles right there.
closer, I like it.
Tell you what, I don't like you. Myself.
Well, you never have.
If I call you Mr. Chris, don't panic.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate that.
Okay, agenda item number 8, adopt a resolution granting approval to Mosquito Abatement District 2 and 3 of the Parish of Livingston, State of Louisiana, to call and hold an election on Saturday, May the 4th, 2019, to authorize the levy and collection of a service charge in an amount not to exceed $3 per month for a period of 10 years for the purpose of paying cost of mosquito abatement and control programs within said district. We have Mr. Jim Ryan at the podium to
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Ryan,
discuss.
Government Consultants Parish Financial Advisor. This resolution is just you're giving the district authority to put the item on the ballot. Is all you're doing tonight. The district has already met and they approved the resolution calling for the election, but as they are a political subdivision of the parish, which you created, you have to grant them permission to put this item on the ballot. That's all this resolution does. You as the parish are granting them permission to hold an election.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to discuss this agenda item? All right.
I would like to clarify that this is just, for clarity's sake, this is just Mr. Talbert and Mr. Keene's districts. Not the other 7, not mine or Mr. Talbert and Mr. Keene's districts and their districts alone calling for this election. And I make a motion.
Okay, I got it. We have a motion by Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse. We have a second by Mr. Jeff Avery. Sandy, can you call for the vote?
I have
Oh, sorry.
discussion.
We have one more
I have a couple questions.
gentleman that would like
Mr.
to
Chairman.
discuss.
Why are we choosing to put this mosquito abatement tax on a May 4th election, which is typically a very small turnout? Why wouldn't we put it at the, I heard Mr. Talbot say he wanted to do it at the same time his election. Why wouldn't we put it in November when there's going to be a big turnout? Because there's going to be a very small representative people that's going to show up, and you're going to, with a very small amount, 5% of 10% of the population, then 100% of people have to make that suffer the consequence of whatever.
I don't mean to speak for Mr. Keene or Mr. Talbot, but I believe the logic was that if it went on the fall ballot, it will not meet the assessor's roll for 2019. Therefore, no money would be collected in 2020. It would be placed on the assessor's roll in the fall of 2020, and the first money they would get would be in the spring of 2021. So the only way to get money in for 2020 was to have a spring election this year in 2019.
Jim, this isn't gonna go on the assessor's ballot. This isn't going on the assessor's roll.
I'm sorry.
This is gonna be a collection by the water department on the water. Basically,
But you still run into the same timing
yeah,
issue, whether it's the
but-
assessor or the.
But the concern was that we are technically making applications for a grant. And the state was willing to wait until after a May election to determine if we had recurring revenue to make the decision on the grant. The state was not willing to wait till after a November or October-November election to determine if we have recurring revenue. And so looking at the spring dates and looking at the timeline to make, based on when we determined this, the only date we could make, based on the timeline laid out by Mr. Ryan, was the May election. So it wasn't exactly what we wanted to do. It was the option that we had kind of put before us.
Again, I don't mean to speak for them, Mr. Watson, but I think the problem is whether it's the assessor or the water district, you've got a lag from the time it's passed to the time they start collecting it.
And I guess my question was, it seems like people put taxes and stuff that majority of people complain about for 4 years on elections that are very small turnout, and then they get those passed, and then, when the big elections are in November, when you have presidents and governors and,
I'll tell you,
I mean,
there's a really good explanation for that. It used to be several years ago when Sandy worked at the Secretary of State's office and I worked at the Bond Commission, they had 6 election dates. They've narrowed it down to 4, 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall, and they've also come up with all these crazy noticing and publication requirements, which have made these elections unbelievably complicated and difficult. A perfect example of the reason people put stuff on the spring ballot is this. I got a call from Livingston Parish Fire Protection District 7 today, Ms. Deneen, okay? If they go in the fall again, they will not have time, if it fails, to get on the assessor's roll. They will lose money. The same thing if they go in the spring, if they go on a spring ballot and it fails, you've got to wait 6 months before you can put it back on the ballot.
And if it fails, I've heard them say if it fails, they're not going to push it no more.
We're not going to push.
I'm not talking about the mosquito
It won't
abatement
come
district.
back
I'm
up.
talking about just elections in general. So you see a lot of political subdivisions across the state, and it's not Livingston Parish. They want to be on that first spring or that second spring ballot, that March, April, or May ballot.
Okay.
The reason being is if it fails, which for example, I believe Fire Protection District number 10 failed a couple of years ago. And because they put it on a spring ballot, they were able to wait 6 months, come back in the fall and get it passed, and they didn't lose any money. If it fails on a fall ballot, you don't have the 6 months interim to that time that you need to get on the spring ballot, which means you're not going to make the assessor's rolls the following years, which means you're going to lose a year's worth of money. That's why you see a lot of the fire districts and rec districts want to do something on a spring ballot.
I understand.
But John, to answer your question, Scooter and I would prefer it in October ballot, because we're gonna be campaigning, knocking doors in October, trying to get reelected. It'd be just as easy to campaign for both at the same time. We're actually gonna have to run 2 separate campaigns, a campaign for the May ballot, then a campaign for the
Okay.
October ballot.
I understand.
But our hand was forced to put it on May. It wasn't our preference, it just kind of what,
And I have another question, if you don't mind.
okay.
How much, Jim, do you think it's going to cost this parish to put this mosquito tax on the ballot?
Again, there's no way to know. I had this conversation with Fire District 7 today. And Sandy can tell you this, it is strictly a function of what other elections are on the ballot. So if you've got
Can you give me a range? I mean,
I can't.
maximum and minimum.
maximum ballot, depending on the number of polling places. I mean, you don't have a lot of polling places in those 2 districts. You might be talking maximum $15,000 for your polling costs. That's probably conservative. If you've got other things on the ballot, whether it's a school district tax, drainage.
It'll come
district
down?
rate, it's prorated.
Could be as little as half?
It could be little as $3,000 or $4,000.
Okay, all right. So
Let's hope some more stuff
and,
comes along.
and Mr. Keene had mentioned, whenever I was questioned how much this is going to cost the parish, that money would come out of the 2 nights.
I don't know that for a fact.
Well, that's what you'd said.
I said we were gonna pay for it out of that. but I
Yes,
don't
you
know.
did make that comment. I was just
I
wondering
don't think
if y'all.
can we legally take it out of that?
Are y'all still
mosquito
planning on doing
money to
that?
run an election, or the parish just has to pay for it?
Okay, you can, and I would defer to Mr. Moody on this, but you can use public money to inform the public about the tax election and what the proceeds of the tax would be used for. You cannot use public funds to campaign for the passage of a tax
Can
or
they use it to
against.
put them on the ballot?
Yes, absolutely.
So you could use the, okay, and if you're gonna do it, I'd rather you use it out of the 2
And I would
nights.
defer to Mr. Moody on that, but I think that's.
And instead of coming from the general fund. Another question I have is how are you gonna collect it? With the water bill I'm hearing now? Is that, you're gonna put it on the water bill with water district, what? 2, 1?
It's Ward 2 water, correct,
Ward-
Mr. Talbot?
Ward 2 water?
Yes.
Have you got a resolution from Ward 2 water that they're good about putting this on their
State
water
law-
bill?
State law, I mean, I've talked to board members on Ward 2, they understand, but state law requires that they do it if the people pass it. They don't
State
know how-
law makes them
Collected.
collect a tax
It's
on
not-
their water bill.
Well, it's a fee, it's not a tax.
A tax fee. Okay, here's my question. Are they gonna charge extra for collecting the money, mosquito money, tax fee money from people? When they add, are they gonna,
They're gonna charge the mosquito abatement district to collect.
so they will get a commission,
They,
so,
you're right,
for collecting them?
they do the same thing that every school board sheriff assessor does across the state.
Right,
They
exactly.
get
So,
a
yeah.
percentage.
If it would have been a tax put on your assessment, if it would have been a flat fee put on your assessment, you would have paid the sheriff.
To collect it,
Just
right.
would have paid the sheriff. So
Right.
the same type situation is gonna occur with the water. It's not gonna cost the water department anything to collect the fee.
It's not gonna cost the water department to collect it, but they're gonna charge it.
Yeah, they're
An administration fee.
they're gonna
I think what
charge
Mr. Talbot is saying is I don't think he means it's not gonna cost them anything. I think what he's trying to say is that it's not going to come out of their pocket, or they're not going, Ward 2 water is not going to incur unreimbursed expenses for the cost of collecting.
Sure, I mean, they're already sending out bills, but there is gonna be more work, and that's I mean, they'll have to do different accounting, and then where the Ward 2 water goes outside those districts, or if those districts are not covered by Ward 2 water, I mean, some people will get tax bills and not, and then you got people inside the city limits that are gonna be in that district, and they're getting water through the city. I mean, there's still a lot of questions, I think, that need to be answered.
Come to mosquito meat.
Well, we could just move this back to a fall election and,
And we're not doing that.
okay. Anyway, that's all my questions I had, Mr. Chairman. I'm done.
Good.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Can we call for the vote?
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
No.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Item number 9.
This is a renewal for Fire Protection District number 11. It's an existing tax. It's a 10 mil tax for 10 years. It's already in place, and they're asking for your permission to put it on the May 4th ballot.
All right. Do I need to read that, Sandy? Okay. All right. Does anybody in the audience like to discuss this topic? All right. Anybody on the council have anything to say about this topic? All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have a motion by Mr. Jeff Ard. We have a second by Mr. Bubba Harris. Can you call for the vote, pretty please?
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jim Ryan.
Happy New Year, y'all.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make an executive decision. We're gonna move up line item 15F. I would like to repeat myself and say that if you are here to address any concerns or talk about this particular line item, you know, that you limit your concerns to 3 minutes, try to give, you know, others a chance to talk. And I would like to say that if you pay attention and somebody else has already addressed that concern, then, you know, we've already heard it. Now, what we want to do here is we want to be well informed on both sides. We want to hear from the constituents of that area, and we would also like to hear from the developer from that area, and possibly the engineering firm that is developing this commercial development, and so they can advise the council and we can make a formative decision on this matter. Okay. 15F. Also, Mr. Sam DiGeronimo, Director of Planning, is welcome to come up to the podium and begin, you know, this process, you know, and if anybody else comes up to the podium, be sure and speak clearly and loud, you know, state your name and your address. You know, it's very important that we record that information. Okay, and Mr. Sam, to show our appreciation and how much we enjoy working with you, we're going to allow you to go through all of your planning commission items, you know, while you're here. After we go through, we're going to do F first. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
FABC.
Okay, guys, appreciate it, thank you. This is a multifamily development. The agenda item is Starwood, no preliminary site plan. This is in Mr. Jeff Avery's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Sherwood Knoll. Starwood, I'm sorry, Sherwood. Starwood. Thank you, Mr. Jeff.
This is my district, and we get started on this, and it's been approved by the planning commission. And, personally, I'm not for it, but that's just the way I feel about it.
Sam,
Yes, sir.
They didn't ask for any waivers or variances
No,
at
sir.
all?
No,
Okay.
sir. There might
Okay.
be somebody that wants.
Is there anybody that would like to speak and address their concerns on this particular topic? With the way, maybe I forgot to address this, but what you do, come on up, man. What you do is just raise your hand, and then we'll call upon you, and then you can come up to the podium and state your name and address your concerns. Okay, state your name and your address,
I'm
and you
Catrice
got 3
Joyner.
minutes, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm Catrice Joyner, 25718 Palmwood Court, Woodland Crossing Subdivision. I'm the HOA Phase 2 president. And I want to oppose it. I want to oppose it. Thank you very much for saying so. Reason why, we'd like to, you mentioned about a waiver. We want to stop the traffic waiver. That, I mean, it's going to bring in tons of traffic. I mean, isn't there like 2 cars per home? And we already have 650 homes already in our subdivision. That's going to double the amount of traffic, not let alone crime. There's also a problem we're having with flooding. On 447, we have the trailer park there. It always floods. Every time it can have a little rain, it's flooding for some reason. And with this new development, if it's ever built, which I hope it's not going to be, hope it's not going to be, but it can also cause further flooding. We also have a problem with MODAD. The stench is ridiculous. We can't get them to come out for nothing. And I also read that Bonnie Blue is on priority 6 level. It's supposed to be repaired like soon, high or whatever. But y'all would make it higher if this new development comes in. I mean, that's unheard of in my opinion. I'm pretty sure they are too, saying the same thing. I know the school's going to be overstrength with children, traffic. It's going to be a multitude of things that if they come in our neighborhood, which you want to stop. I'm retired military myself, and so I know I'll get aggravated with all this noise, constant noise, people. I walk every morning, 2 and 3 miles a day, and I'm walking and somebody run right into me because because all the traffic. I would hate that. I spent 20 years in the military just to come in and dodge and come in a. I'm from New Orleans, by the way, and come to Livingston Parish to dodge cars constantly. So I'm asking y'all to oppose it. Mr. Everett, push it, please.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I gotta say?
I would like to say something on that.
Okay, does
Thank you.
anybody?
It's not going to be a priority on the road list. Nothing to do with this right here.
Right, gotcha.
That's something that we're doing as a parish.
Gotcha, man.
So it's nothing to do with the Bonnie Blue being used for subdivision or anything else. This is just our priority road list.
Yes,
And it's on the list already.
and also, isn't there only one entrance for this development? Shouldn't there be 2?
I'm not sure on it. I think it's a secondary maybe.
Where?
I'm not sure.
I was just had a question. I'm not that familiar with this
Go ahead.
development, but when you talk about traffic problems,
We already have a problem with traffic, yes.
is this not supposed to enter and exit off of Highway 447? Does anybody know that information?
No, it's primary on Bonnie Blue.
Bonnie Blue.
Do we have anybody here that with the engineering group? Or Sam, can you answer that question, please?
I've been told, and yes, there is somebody here with the engineering group, but I was told this afternoon that they're going situation of coming in and out on 447? Yes. Also 447 into this?
So they're just looking into it, but for right now, they're planning
I
on,
haven't seen anything like that. I was
Okay.
just told.
okay. Billy, are you the, can you come up to the,
I'd like to let everybody speak their concern
Okay.
and answer everything one time.
all right, we'll get
Is
that question
it,
answered
how
later.
how can we waive the demand traffic impact study? How can we waive it?
My answer would be, we're not going to.
We're not going to.
It has to be done.
It has to be done.
Yep.
You talking about the traffic impact study?
Yes.
It has to be done.
It has to be done, yes, sir. Okay. I want to ensure.
You have to do a traffic
The
impact.
state will require, as well as our parish engineers will.
Okay, and also the schools and the
School
schools.
impact have to be done.
Well,
All
they'll
that.
be involved in it, but the engineers will be the one, the state,
Okay.
as well as the parish will be the one to decide what's to be done.
Well, primarily, what's going on, what we're so aggravated about is the fact that this development can bring down our property values. I mean, I didn't work all those years to come here and just, my stuff just go down to nothing. Who knows what kind of property is it gonna be? Is it gonna be,
It's not going to be government housing.
that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
We're gonna,
But I mean, are these
I think
rentals?
some of these questions may be
rentals?
able to be answered whenever
Billy-
the engineering
Billy
firm
will
comes
answer
back
Okay.
and talks about
Yeah,
it.
he'll know particulars on all of it.
Yeah,
All right.
okay. Anybody else want to, thank you, ma'am, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so, there was a hand that went up over here. We're gonna get you guys, promise. There was the gentleman in the, gray LSU shirt. Don't forget to, state your name and your address.
Yes,
Thank
sir,
you
I
so
was
much.
paying attention. Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Jeff Simon. I live 12909 Bonnie Blue. From the intersection entering the neighborhood, the first intersection you come to the right is the entrance to...
Just a second. We have some disturbance over here to the left.
As I was saying, sir, as you enter the neighborhood, the first intersection you come to on the right-hand side would be the entrance to this development. My backyard, along with some others, is a detention pond, okay? Everything around us is woods. They came in, they cleared it all out. So, in other words, in essence, my backyard now, instead of overlooking wildlife and stuff, now I'm going to be looking at construction going on for God knows how long. So last night after the other meeting, I sat home, made me a drink with a couple of ice cubes, and I come up with a few things I wanted to mention. Because Bonnie Blue is considered a parish road, as we discussed last night, with all the traffic, being that it's a single entrance, would that force the parish to put up caution lights or red lights to...
The answer is, that's a state highway.
Where it comes out, yeah, on 447.
I was told it was a parish
Well,
road.
Bonnie
It
Blue
is.
They're talking about
So
Bonnie Blue
would that
and Buddy
force
Allen.
DOT to do traffic assessments and want to create a red light? Where now when I back out of my driveway, I got to wait for traffic to back out of my driveway?
Okay, is there multiple, do we want to get this question answered right away, or do we want to do it at the end? Sam, can you speak to that?
Yes, sir. Well, that question will be answered during this traffic impact study
Sure.
by the state of Louisiana. They'll decide whether traffic lights needed, along with our parish engineers on the Bonnie Blue side of it.
Sure.
But yes, that would be addressed. It might be a turning lane. I don't know. That's going to be left up to them when they submit their permit to DOT. Then they'll decide at that point after the study what kind of in and outs.
Okay, next
My
question.
second concern, Mr. Mack, there can't be the only other way you could get a second entrance would be to hit Buddy Ellis. If you try 447, you would have to dozer over mobile homes. With that being said, has anybody ever driven down Buddy Ellis Road lately? Can I get out of here? They've already built a neighborhood by the ditch overpass, which, by the way, a good rain, it's pretty scary already. The road has never changed. The drainage has never changed.
They build these homes to collect a property tax, not to accommodate the people who are already paying a property tax. There's no... Things would have to change before this begins to develop. The fire department, a stone throw away from the entrance of our neighborhood, has one truck, and he practically lives in Woodland Crossing now. That would in turn increase my property tax so I could pay more firemen to be there, more fire trucks to accommodate this.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Could you say
My name's Jeff Simon.
Mr. Jeff, you're at 3 minutes, so can we wrap it up, please? Thank you, Mr. Jeff. Okay, is there anybody else? The gentleman right here on the front row, please come up.
Mr. Chairman, fellow council members, my name is Master Sergeant Carlos Davila. I live at 26047 Glenbrook Drive, Woodland Crossings as well, obviously. I understand your requirement and the rules, but unfortunately, I didn't come here to be a spectator tonight, so I will hit on some of the things that's already been mentioned, so if you tell me to shut my hole, so be it. I'll move on. So I just want to back up a little bit and clarify the term property values or loss of property values has been mentioned more than once. And yes, that is a serious concern for all of these residents, taxpayers, and constituents. It is a valid concern. But I also I think the term we're missing is infrastructure. The previous gentleman, he hit on that pretty well. And he's accurate. We have 2 apartment buildings on Buddy Ellis now, and they're building a 3rd. They built a hospital. Dump trucks went through day and night, every day for months, hauling wood to build that up for that hospital. That's great. We need a hospital. But Buddy Ellis was destroyed after that, and nothing's been done to correct that. I've lost 3 passenger side mirrors on Buddy Ellis since I've lived here since 2007. The LPSO will straight up tell you, there's no divider. You can't say who's in whose lane. There's no markings whatsoever. I've driven overseas in war zones on better roads than Buddy Ellis. But again, moving forward, I understand the process. I wasn't at the meeting last night, but I was privileged to see a video of that meeting. I understand the process and the fact that we have 0 zoning or lack of zoning to help us in this situation. I know why, and I know if it was put to vote, many parish residents aren't going to vote for that because there's reasons why we live where we live and choose to live how we live. And it's going to be very hard to change that mindset and pass those zoning laws. So I understand that. At the same time, I understand the purpose of the studies and what the studies are for. And yes, we do need studies, but forgive us if we have a lack of faith in those studies because of where we live and what's going on around us, and that's why we're here now. So again, it's all about infrastructure, and I know the parish is growing, and I know it's a benefit to us. I grew up here. I used to walk from Walker High School to the Sonic every day after school and hang out. I remember when there was one red light. So yes, the parish is growing. We need homes, and maybe we need condominiums and apartments for these residents and to bring in big business and tax dollars and revenue. But at the same time, if our infrastructure can't support that, then why are we doing it? And I have no doubt some miracle will happen, and those studies are going to come back and say, oh yeah, you got this, just like Buddy Ellis has all those 3 apartment complexes. You can support this. So I'm asking the council to also use common sense. Think about what you're doing and who is affected before you do it, and if there's a better way or a better location. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Shane, I'd like to.
Okay, hold up just a second, buddy. Go ahead, Tracy. What you got to say?
I'd like to. It's fine, Staff Sergeant. He touched on really the whole point of this. That's zoning. I believe that zoning is the most important thing in this. Just to a large degree, if we could zone major portions of this parish outside the municipalities, then we can put restrictions that make sense on stuff like this happening. Walker, I too live in Walker. I too remember when it was one light. I do. And sometimes I long for those days. But the growth in the Walker area, in Denham Springs and in Watson, has exceeded the capacity of the infrastructure. And that's a hard truth, but it is the truth. So I believe that, and asking for zoning, you know, this council will be challenged to do so, because I understand that the eastern part of the parish does not want the restrictions that are necessary for us. I mean, it's absolutely necessary for us, and that is a hard truth, but it's the truth we all have to come to realization about. We need, if we're going to develop, we have to continue developing for, we have to be smarter about it. To some degree, we have to have zoning. There's only so much we can do. Now, I don't want this development either. I don't want it to be there either. But they haven't asked for any waivers. But we're also, at some point, you have to stand your ground and go, we have to stop. We have to not allow this to continue. Guys, we have to, you know, moving forward, we have to make changes in this. This is what we're here for. And I understand we have to figure out a system to where the East can develop in the, you know, Holden and Springfield. Those guys can develop and have more a lax type system that, you know, and where we could be stricter in Walker. I mean, you know, I think I had read in the paper, and I don't want to misquote, but in the last, since 2010, of all the growth in the schools in the Livingston Parish, over half, or close to half, or over half, is in the Walker system right now. I mean, that much growth in that little area in this parish. And, you know, we are bursting at the seams, and we cannot continue business as usual. So the reason why I brought it aside is I agree with you. I don't think zoning I don't believe that it's unpassable. I believe we can pass it. We just have to present it in a way that makes sense. You know, so thank you, Staff Sergeant.
Okay. This next gentleman on the front row here.
Hi, I'm Austin Armstrong. I'm the HOA Phase 1 president for Woodland Crossing. I'm at 26222 Millstone Drive. I don't want to rehash everything everyone else has said. I echo their sentiments about the issues with the infrastructure. I had a couple of questions. What's the timeline for these traffic studies, the drainage studies? How long does that take? I'm assuming 6 months. We'll get there.
Sometimes it takes quite a bit of time.
Okay.
It just all depends on the sincerity.
Okay. And then if the study comes back and says some kind of infrastructure has to be improved,
Yes, sir.
who pays for that? Is it the parish, or is it the developers going to pay for all of that? Okay. Because frankly, my neighbors have told me that they really don't have much faith in the parish right now to improve that infrastructure in our neighborhood. We've tried multiple times to try and get roads fixed and drainage issues fixed. And so that's good to hear that the developer would have to pay for that. That was that between those two things, that was really the biggest concern. And so my last question would be, voting yes today, that's just to allow them to do these studies? That's not to actually, this is not to build anything? Okay. And then is there anything as far as with the schools, is there some kind of study involved with that?
It's a school study.
So if there's not enough room in the area to accommodate all these kids, then the parish is going to have to build another school? Or does they say we can't develop this until the school's built? Or are you just going to shoehorn a bunch more kids into the school?
I don't know exactly how that works. I can't answer that question. I would think that would come.
I'm not involved in the school. But through what I hear, there's going to be a school built now. Buddy Ellis. That's what I understand. Like I said, I'm not school board member.
And Chad,
What I understand.
can you give them a little bit about Buddy Ellis just real quickly, because they're very concerned about Buddy Ellis.
Yeah, we got this DOTD project that's being completed, but it should be let this fall to repave that whole thing, and there's a little bit of drainage work that's associated with it, but it's gonna be a 20-foot wide roadway. It's probably 18 now, but it is going to be improved this fall to have like a 4-inch asphalt pavement and basically redo the entire road.
And that's DOTD.
Yeah,
And that's funded?
It's with a DOTD, yes, sir.
It should be let in late
Next
fall.
fall. Is that MOP money?
Yes. All we have to provide is a small match. It's mostly state funded, so it's going to be a great. Yeah, 80-20. So it's going to be a great thing for Buddy Ellis with the improvements and all the things that are coming, the subdivisions and apartments that y'all. This is going to be great to get that road to 20 feet. I got dear friends that live there, and they are definitely afraid to drive. They're in their 70s.
There's unsafe parts of it. I mean, it's,
school
the
buses
whole
come
thing
and
is
they
unsafe.
stop and shiver, you know.
That bridge, the bridge, there's no,
right. That's all in the
there's
plan.
no guardrails on that. There's a lot of unsafe parts of it.
You might mention, Forest Flat, which is.
Forest Flat too, the connector going the other way.
It'll be overlaid in the same money as the Buddy Ellis project.
So all of that infrastructure is being upgraded. It just takes, once it gets on MPO, it's usually what, 3-4 years?
Yeah, it takes a few years.
But it's all happening. We're very concerned about infrastructure improvement because we know that all these people want to live here.
Especially driving down that road at night.
I understand. I think my biggest concern with that kind of thing is that if it's identified as needing to be done, and then we say, okay, you guys can build because you're going to fix this stuff, is there anything that prohibits them from building until all that infrastructure is improved? Or is it just a promise? Because we've got, we've got this the Bonnie Blue one that's on the priority list, but if something comes up to bump it down, then it doesn't get done. And that's what I'm concerned about, is that there's nothing that says it doesn't get built until the infrastructure is done.
Bonnie Blue will not get built down.
That was as an example, but but other infrastructure.
Buddy Ellis. Forest Flat, already got that money in place. That money's in place to.
I'm sorry, if I said Buddy Ellis, I meant Bonnie Blue.
Yeah, Bonnie Blue will be done with the parish's program tax that you pay for our overlay program.
That's under
2019, Sam?
It's going to be done, I'm hoping within, weather permitting, within the next 2, 3, 4 months maybe, 4 months at the most.
All of that's wonderful to hear, and I appreciate
Is
that.
Bonnie Blue one of the roads on the savings from 2018?
Yes.
You're gonna bring that before this?
Yes.
Like first meeting in February?
Yes.
Bonnie Blue is gonna happen way quicker than you can imagine.
And that's wonderful to hear. As far as the other infrastructure things like drainage and those kind of things, is there something that prevents them from building until all that's done?
Yes, they got to have all that in place.
They got to have a drainage
And get
impact
it,
study.
yeah, drainage impact study will be adhered to.
Not just the study, but actually done.
No, yeah, they have to do it.
Okay.
If Chad and them decide what they have to do, they have to do it. They don't have a choice. They don't want to build it.
It's part of the building permit, and they don't get to, put it in place.
You get shut down.
Move in.
Okay.
So,
Make the stand.
yes.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else? The lady in red in the back.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Deidre Sellers. I live at 26025 Burrowwood Avenue. Thank you, Mr. Everett, for your vote in our favor. Last night, I just want to clear up one thing real quick. Last night, it was kind of a thing of contention. A long discussion was had about whether Bonnie Blue was an existing parish road. It's not true that Bonnie Blue was an existing parish road prior to our development. It was actually a construction entrance for our, and then the parish took it over. So I just wanted to clear that up really quickly. My husband is a disabled Marine Corps vet. He fell off his trike. He's not allowed to drive anymore because of his injuries. So we got him a bicycle. He can't equilibrium. got him a trike. Okay, so he rides those roads. He fell off his trike due to one of those potholes. That's a major parish liability. I'm an attorney. I don't have any intention on filing anything on that, but you need to be aware that that's a problem. We're having all kinds of problems on Willowwood, on Bonnie Blue, and this is just going to make it worse. Last night they talked about tying into MODAD as a possibility for their development. That's insane because MODAD can't handle what they've got right now. We've got sewer backing up in our bathtubs. I can't wash my children. There are people in here with illnesses that cannot take a bath and be safe to do that because MODAD can't handle what it's doing already. And if they do upgrade their systems, what are they going to do? Out of kindness of their heart, are they going to do that? Or will they pass that money on to us? Will they pass that bill on to us? Yeah, exactly. Let us fix our communities, as this gentleman here stated. Let us fix the community before we stack on. We're looking at a backwards action here. We need to fix our problems first. Last night, this gentleman right here, at the end here, I forget his name and I can't see it, our district attorney there, told us that parish residents don't want zoning. And that's why we don't have the ordinances. And that was directly after a vote with regard to a zoning ordinance where you denied a woman who's sitting right here, in fact, the ability to sell her property because there was a zoning ordinance in place. Sir, we do want zoning. We do.
That's a Livingston Parish ordinance, but it's not a...
I understand that. Okay, so I'll move on. And as I stated last night, there is a difference between a battle and a war, and I understand that the board's hands were tied and that they had to vote the way they did because there hadn't been any anything against any ordinances. But this is a war, and we will not give up. All of these people here took off work and came out. A lot of them found babysitters and came out. Last night, they came out, got off work early to meet at 5:30. We had them stacked up down the hallway. We care, and we do not want this development to go through. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Building. Sewer. What? I mean,
Well,
you can't tie into an existing MODAD plant. They're gonna have to do something.
Right.
But does that fall within Livingston Parish Sewer District now that they're looking at doing that $10 million expansion off of, so that plant, they will tie into parish sewer, basically, in that, at that.
We contacted them. I'll go into the details.
Okay. I just want to make sure
Their
that,
subdivision, will it tie into the parish sewer too?
that they're currently tied into MODAD, so it would, sewer department would have to acquire MODAD.
Yeah.
Okay, gentleman with the baseball cap on, with the black shirt.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Ray Thrall, at 12933 Bonnie Blue. Hope y'all had a nice holiday. I came home from work one Friday night. I saw a big sign in my yard, which Mr. Lewis put up. Well, I saw red, so I cut it down. Next morning, I had two gentlemen knocking on my door. Mr. Lewis and another gentleman. He told me that the parish gave him permission to put this sign up, and he owned the property. He told me he owned that property. He bought it. I'm not thinking, how did he get the chance to buy this property next month? I pay tax on this property. I maintain this property. So I helped the gentleman put the sign back on and apologized to him. We couldn't find out he doesn't own that property. My question to you is this: can you lead me to the documentation that states that the parish has the right, they own that property and they can do what they want with it? If they own that property and if they can do what they want and give permission to people to put what they want on there, why am I paying tax on this property and why do I maintain it?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I think that was probably a mix-up, and I mean, the parish don't have the right to put the sign on your property. Mr. Gary would want to put it on his property. So
he also told me
he must have gotten confused.
No.
That's an assumption. That's the only thing I can come up with. But the sign would need to be on the piece of property where the development is being placed.
That's what I asked him. He told me that Saturday that he was gonna ask you guys if he could move his sign back to his property. I'm thinking, why would he ask you guys if he could move his own sign to his own property?
Sam, can you?
What's the law? Are we supposed to put it at the entrance of the development or the busiest intersection of Lake Swift?
Supposed to put it where it can be noticed to the public.
But
Let Billy.
Before we put the sign up, the parish has a right of way that goes to the property. Mr. Gary owns. So do you want us to put it at the property where nobody can see it? Or do you want us to put it in the parish right of way close to where that stub out comes up?
What's all putting on his property?
okay, so
So we put it where we thought everybody could see it. And it worked because everybody's here, there's everybody. It goes back here.
And Shane,
okay, so let me answer that real quick. Okay,
it really didn't bother me he put the sign there. It really didn't. I even explained to that man, if he'd have come ask me, you know, can I put a sign out? I would have said, yeah. I let people put tents up there to have sales, for cookie sales, for Girl Scouts, but I never even got a courtesy of the man telling me he put a sign up and nothing else. You know, and I didn't even see the yard marked where he's supposed to contact utility companies to find out where to dig or not. I didn't see any markers on my yard.
Okay.
And I want to say one thing. This is my first councilman meeting attendance, and I really like what I see. I honestly believe you guys are doing what's right for the people.
Okay, so it sounds like he put the sign on a servitude to the property where he's placing
Right.
commercial development.
So it's on a right of
So
way,
which
it's
is-
a parish right of way, but it's actually you own.
Right, I pay taxes on this
Right,
property.
so I mean, okay, that was probably
Got it.
too far.
And he left us notice on my door today, saying that he's gonna put another entrance up the. That's not gonna make that the main entrance of Bonnie Blue. He's gonna make another entrance.
That's what I was told too.
Yeah.
447.
Oh, 447.
That's the letter. Make everybody copy one of those.
Okay.
Please have.
You can have that. I guess that's a copy.
Is there anything else that?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
My name is Gene Cormier. I live at 26284 Robindale Road. And concerning Bonnie Blue Road, and the comment last night that, you know, that is a parish road and has always been a parish road. And not being a born and raised Livingston Parish resident, I decided to check the history out. I know people that hunted in that property, that did rabbit hunting as young kids and everything. And their explanation of this area was that these were fields. Bonnie Blue was built as a gravel road by George Lockhart. It's named for his mom, who was named Bonnie. It was a gravel road so that he could park his trucks on that property back at the end of Bonnie Blue, which was like a dead-end road. So at some point, what happened was that we understand that this road, this gravel road, was part of the development, Woodland subdivision, and it would be part of that. Now, I understand we don't own a road. We can't tell people who to come up and down our road, but this is affecting how we live and everything. So I just wanted to put that history in that I was able to come across.
Completely take that traffic out.
Out of Bonnie Blue.
But I think the intent's still to tie into Bonnie Blue in case of emergency.
I think they have to.
Is it gated or something like that?
We're gonna get those questions answered in a little
Okay.
while.
All right, thank you.
Did you have anything else?
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
The lady in the back in the purple.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Jennifer Hossink, Hossink. My address is 26364 Poplar Glen Drive. I have a question for you. My question is when do we say enough as far as complexes that are built? We currently have 3 complexes that are on Buddy Ellis. We have the complexes at Juban Crossing. We have complexes in Walker. When is enough that we're over infilling these? I have a personal neighbor that is a property manager for one of the apartment complexes on Buddy Ellis, and currently they don't have enough to fill. I mean, they're having to reduce their rent just because they don't have the people to move in. If we're continuing to build these things, and have we reached out to all these complexes? Are they full to capacity? Do we have a need for it? Is it just going to be empty units that we're already experiencing? So when, as a council, do we say enough is enough? I mean, are we going to get 10 more that are going to come up in our parish, in our area? I don't know what the guidelines are for you as a council to say, okay, we have too many of these. I mean, I'm just curious.
To be honest with you, I don't know that regulating the number is the council's responsibility. I think, we live in a free market economy, and I think the market is going to dictate when subdivisions are built and when apartment complexes are built. And as the market becomes saturated, it'll regulate whether they're, whether they continue to be built or not. Our concern is to provide the infrastructure and make sure that we're taking care of the people that are there, making sure that their quality of life isn't affected by the people that aren't there. I think that's what our concern is, that we're trying to juggle, the rights of the property owner that wants to develop versus the rights of the individuals who are already here. And so I think our goal is to try to, as best we can, make sure that you aren't negatively impacted by development in your area by requiring traffic studies, by requiring school studies, by requiring drainage impact studies. You're going to see an item later on. Hang around. I don't know how late it's going to be tonight, but at some point in time tonight, we're going to introduce an ordinance that's going to modify our drainage impact study to significantly improve, the outflow and try to make, there being no impact.
And those are some of my concerns as well.
I think to answer your question is that we're trying to do the things that government are responsible to do, but the market's going to dictate about the apartment situation, and I could be out of line. I'm not sure. My understanding is Mr. Lewis going to rent these, or is Mr. Lewis going to sell these as homes?
That was my next question. Thank you.
We're going to get more information on that.
Because one of the things that was brought up last night was that it was going to be similar to Suma Lake at Satsuma exit, and those are apartments. But then he stated that they were condominiums. He was asked by the Planning Commission whether are they going to be privately owned? Is Mr. Lewis going to own them? What is the price point on these? And those answers were never addressed by the gentleman last night. And so those are some of our concerns. Is it an apartment complex, or are they going to be privately owned condominiums?
And from a business point of view, I think that's something that the market will determine. You might have the intention of building 160 units or whatever it is and then trying to sell them. And if the market will accept that, then that would be ideal in that particular situation.
So
if the market doesn't accept that, then you might be forced to rent them. You might choose, you might choose to build them out in pieces so that you maintain a demand and don't create a surplus, so that your hand isn't forced. I can't speak to Mr. Lewis's intention, but there's just several different ways. But I believe a lot of those answers you'll find out based on what the market is. I think what our concern right now is that this development follows the law, and that the studies are done, and that the results that we get from those things will be addressed in such a manner that y'all's quality of life isn't impacted negatively. So that's our goal up here, and that's what the laws are written for. Granted, we don't have zoning that some areas have where we could actually just say, oh, you don't fit this mold, we're going to stop it. But we still have an avenue in place to try to maintain your quality of life and be sure that you're not negatively impacted by development that's going in.
May I ask another question?
One more, and
just
then we're
one
going to
more.
try to get the
Okay.
engineer.
My last question is when and how can we get the results of any of these studies that are going to be done? Like, when is there something that we can get hey, something's gonna be posted, or something that we can know, hey, this is what the traffic or the drainage or the school or those kind of things, so that we know what the results are?
What we can do is we can work with a few of the individuals in Woodland Crossing to, keep them notified. Okay. We have no problem with that. My office, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 5. I have no problem with making contact with whomever you choose, and we will stay in touch with them. There's no problem with that. Whatsoever.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll take one or two more. We're an hour into this one line item. So, Rick, the lady on the front row can come up. We're going to get you too, ma'am, I promise. You're going to be the last one.
Tina McBride, 26424 Poplar Glen.
Yeah, we can't hear you, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tina McBride,
Okay.
26424 Poplar Glen. They've mentioned infrastructure, but they didn't give any examples. I've lived here 4 years. Oh my goodness, sorry. And I don't like it here. And I've twice a year I'll cut on my water and brown comes out. And I see in the newsletters how people are having sewage in their tubs. I hate the traffic here, and I'm so sorry I ever moved here and thought of today.
Sorry to hear that. We're going to do everything we can to make it a better quality of life.
Hello, my name is Muriel Laws. I'm at 26253 Poplar Glen, and I have 3 questions. The first is, outside of Mr. Averett and this gentleman here, how many of you have had apartment complexes built in your area? Okay. And the second question is, how long would it take for us to get zoning on the ballot? To discuss zoning, to have people.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna take a while.
How long?
Well, I can tell you this much. I hate to say this, but I was on the police jury from 80 to 88. The council took the place of that. And in the late 80s, we tried to get zoning back then, and it failed. So that's how long people.
We are going to work on it. We've been talking about it for 3 years, and it's hard to, it's like the man said, it's hard to get it. So we don't want to present something to you guys to go vote on and it fails, okay? Because that would waste a lot of time, effort, and money to get this going. We do have a master plan in place that we're going to work on. And it's going to be a hard sell because these big landowners, they don't want any kind of zoning. A lot of the people in the south and the east don't want any type of zoning. We can hammer that out and figure it out. But if we don't start with zoning probably late this year, so we can get it on maybe 2020 ballot in the spring, shame on us. We need to do it.
Yes.
Okay? A lot of people won't, they won't less government. A lot of people won't less government until it's time for you to get somebody to say, well, tell them they can't build that. Then they want more government.
Okay. And outside of the complex that is at Bonnie Blue, and the concern that you all say that you have for us and our living quality of life, I've been in Poplar Glen since 2007. I do not live on Bonnie Blue, but I can tell you that walking the area, collecting recyclable signatures, which hopefully we will get to this evening, there has been a consistent message of sinkholes, bad streets, fence falling, dogs walking, nasty water coming through the toilets, which I have had issues with since '07. So for quality of life, for a mortgage of 30 years, there is no way in 2019 that we should be having these type of antiquated issues. Thank you.
Okay, I said you were going to be the last one, but there was a gentleman that's had his hand up for a long time, and I apologize for skipping over you, and I'd love to hear from you.
Gentleman that couldn't get in the room last night because he's out there with us in the hall.
Taking care of a baby.
Yep.
My name is Aaron Everett. I'm at 13112 Hazelwood Drive. I spoke to Mr. Averett this morning. I got a question for you, Mr. Sam, because I spoke to somebody from the school board this morning at 9 o'clock. His first name is Steven. He told me they need another junior high middle school on this side of 447 South, and there's no funding in the department for it. So I'm wondering how you got told that they're planning on building one when the guy told me at 9 o'clock this morning.
Just like I said earlier.
Yeah.
I'm not a board member, affiliated with the school board. I just heard.
Yeah, well, that's why as of 9 o'clock this morning, they don't have the funding for another middle school. And
I don't know this for a fact. This is street talk.
Right.
And it's just something that I hear in my office. But there's going to be some development down on Buddy Ellis Road. And these developers are going to put money forward towards building another school down there.
Yeah, because right now you're looking at, they got,
sir,
right now you got the McLean, the one in Woodland Crossing, that development. There's another sign down Buddy Ellis
right past the,
This is
coming out
gonna
of
be
Creek or
around
whatever?
the old state police firing range. There's gonna be a big development around there.
Right,
And
right.
those developers have, kind of made the comment, they would like to, be a partner in a school improvement.
Yeah, because I
Like I say,
spoke to,
that's
yeah,
pretty
that's my
tough.
concern. I got 2 kids. that-
Official.
Yeah, that's
I
the
just
thing.
thought I would share that with, and I'm sure some of these council members know the same thing.
Right, because I spoke with the principal at South Walker where all of our kids that are in the subdivision go to, and she's maxed right now. And then, they built South Fall, all the schools in Livingston Parish are maxed. That's a big problem as it is right now, but they keep allowing all these developments with no resolution for these kids.
With each development that comes through my office, the school board is notified, so they can participate in any kind of questions they might ask.
Okay. And then another question is,
Not that they're not notified.
can y'all help us with MODAD in Woodland Crossing? It is horrible.
So let me ask you a question. So MODAD is the sewer provider for the first and second filing of Woodland Crossing?
Yes.
I'll call them.
I called DEQ, they were supposed to return my call 3 days ago, and I haven't heard nothing from them.
I mean, I can tell you that MODAD's has got some plans under compliance orders and some other things. I'm sure that's
Right, I know
probably
they
right.
raised our fees from when I moved into subdivision and
to be
nothing's been
honest, to be
done.
honest with you, that's why your fees, the Public Service Commission allowed them to increase the fees supposedly to improve their service, upgrade their service. And I can't speak to where they have or hadn't. But we will contact Mr.
Yeah, they
Keenan
haven't done
tomorrow
nothing
and
in our
Department
area.
and see if we can make some inquiries. You know, that's an ongoing issue within the parish, and, you know, this council hadn't necessarily done, you know, everything right, but one of the first things we did when we came in was to merge the current sewer districts 1 and 2, and we created a financially stable district that's gonna build a plant down off of Buddy Ellis, you know, another, you know, about a $10 million facility down there to improve the sewer. And I know the current sewer district has acquired, you know, different areas from MODAD, bought their operation out and assumed them, and they're constantly asking, you know, to buy their operation as it exists in certain areas, and they seem to be resistant. You know, it might be that this council needs to, you know, through resolution, ask some help from our legislators or something to encourage the compliance. I mean, basically, it's a compliance issue. You know what I'm talking about? I mean,
yeah, I would appreciate it. There's 500
well,
houses.
if they're working right, they know that there's an issue now.
Yeah, there's 500 houses in our subdivision paying $50 a month, $250,000, and you walk out your front door and you smell crap.
Those little package units currently now, the state's not permitting them forever anymore. They're getting temporary permits, and if you don't stay in compliance. So that's the reason that the expansion of sewer within the parish is so important, because nobody wants to go build a subdivision and tie it to a plant that doesn't have a permanent discharge permit. And that's kind of where things are at this point in time. So, you know, the parish sewer district is expanding and building new plants to try to accommodate, but it's gonna take time to go back and acquire. But we could ask for help from the state to make MODAD come into compliance on these plants that are out of place. And I'll make a call tomorrow to Keenan, the health department, see what we can do as far as getting that stuff moving in the right direction.
I appreciate it.
And our #1 goal with doing these sewer districts is to try and get parish-wide sewer and get all of this stink out of the ditch. And it's gonna take forever, but if we don't, we had to start, you know, so, and we got a good jump on it as soon as we got in office. Hopefully it'll continue as we build new plants, bring everybody online that we can, and it'll help with drainage, mosquitoes, it'll help with everything. Keep that stuff out of the ditches.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so can we have the engineering firm representative come up and speak?
Yeah, for this one.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. My name is Billy Taylor with Macklin Taylor. we do have a lot of concerns, and we do take everyone's concerns very seriously as it affects each one of their individual lives and their household. A lot of the concerns seem to be doesn't really have anything to do with this project. They have them in general, so I'll try to stick with addressing this particular project. And we just got done talking about sewer, so I'll cover that first. You asked the question, Mr. Talbot, what are we going to do about sewer? We have heard their complaints about the existing sewer problems. We do have a sewer plant very close right next to our property, but we did contact the sewer district and talk about the possibility of tying into the sewer district. So to be able to do that, we'd have to go down Jimmy or Bobby Gill, down Buddy Ellis. We're open to doing that. We're going to work with the sewer district to explore the opportunity, and if we're able to do that, that provides opportunity for help solve these guys' problems to have existing lift stations that tie into that as they take some of their sewer plants offline. So, it's part of helping solve their problems as well as addressing our needs. I talked about schools, and Mr. Sam's right. We submit everything to the school. I'm told they do their own in-house impact studies. We don't get the results of that. We just give all of them the information. They did call, ask a couple questions. We tried to clarify the number of bedrooms and this, that, and the other, and they have that information. So they input that into their overall school study for the parish. They have a few things like Bonnie Blue being a parish road. Right now it's a parish road. I don't know if we can go back and forth. I remember I went out there in early 2000 to survey it, and there was a plat, and it existed on a plat. It might have been a gravel road, but it was there from the 80s. But either way, I don't think that has anything to do with the way we're looking at it right now. And additionally, the sign to the gentleman, you were right, it is a misunderstanding. We were trying to put it in the right spot to let everybody know about it. And they called me, Drake called me while he was out there, and I was like, put it at the end of the street. That's where the parish wanted. And the parish owned right away. Each person owns a lot each side, but the parish owns the right away to this property. So that was all about that.
Is that an apology, really?
Yeah, I wasn't one to put the sign up, but I know I can speak for Mr. Gary and for Drake that they weren't trying to hurt anybody. They were trying to do what was right to make sure everybody was notified. So just to kind of go to a different direction here, we understand everybody has concerns, and if you heard all the talking, everything comes back to traffic. We do have to do a traffic impact study, and the traffic impact study policy was implemented by you guys actually. Before that, there wasn't a traffic impact study policy, so we are going to do that. We are going to follow the guidelines that you set in place. That's to cover that, but also traffic on Bonnie Blue is a major concern. So Mr. Gary asked me, Mr. Lewis, he said, I'd like to try to be a good neighbor and see if we can find another route that doesn't go through their subdivision or go down Bonnie Blue Road if possible. So we looked at it, and so I think we got another route. And he wrote this letter to you guys and the neighbors, and he asked me to read this statement. So I'll read it. It says, Dear Parish Council and dear neighbors, I am the owner of the property behind Woodland Crossing subdivision where Starwood Knoll is being proposed. I believe it is my right to develop the property in the manner I see fit, and I also believe I have followed all the parish's codes and ordinances. However, I do understand the concerns of the residents in Woodland Crossing, and I would like to be a good neighbor. In good faith effort, I would like to offer the main connection for Starwood Knoll to be directly onto LA 447 and not onto Bonnie Blue Drive. It will take a little time to get all the permits, so we have to get some environmental permits, DOTD permits. But as long as those can be obtained and is feasible, the entrance on Bonnie Blue will not be a permanent entrance or a main entrance. So initially we would, and I'll explain that in just a second. Also in good faith and with the intention of being a good neighbor, I offer to set aside additional property for a park. This park would be for the residents of Starwood Knoll and also for the residents of Woodland Crossing. Again, I understand your concerns and want to be a good neighbor and hope you will consider working together in the future. Please feel free to give me a call and discuss any additional concerns, and I'll be happy to sit down and discuss with you. So what we're proposing is not to tie directly into there permanently. Right now it's a parish road. We've met all the ordinances. We feel we can tie into that. and we do that while we're working on getting the permits. Once permits are gained, that would be a gated entrance, only be used when we need it. That would alleviate the traffic concerns, we think, on Bonnie Blue because due to this development, because we're going in a different direction. Also, this isn't, you're not gonna wake up tomorrow and just see all these units sitting right there. This takes several years. I don't know if you paid attention to one in Satsuma. It took 5 to 10 years to get everything built there, and stuff, still not built that was approved 10 years ago. So we have to do drainage studies, have to do traffic studies, have to do all that, and you got to prepare construction plans. And then y'all talk about markets, so maybe the market says he only builds a quarter of the units. Maybe that's not all of them, or maybe it says differently. I'm not sure. But anyway, he is trying to be a good neighbor, making this offer in good faith. Hopes y'all consider it. Hopes the residents will consider it. And we believe, and again, if we want to work together, he'd be happy to do so. And as of now, he thinks he meets all the ordinances if nobody wants to work together. Anyway, that's not what we want to do. So I'd like to answer any questions from you guys.
Billy, so.
No, go ahead, Gary.
At some point in time, you're gonna have all your reports back, you're gonna have your traffic impact study, you'll have your drainage impact study. Do you think at that point in time that, we'll probably have a public meeting to kind of relay that information to the residents if they chose to come, find out what the results of those things were?
I have no problem with that. Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's public document, so they could get it. But I'd rather be able to sit down and explain it because a lot of times you get that and people misinterpret information. So
If you get it firsthand, it's always
yeah.
better.
So I'll be happy, and I know some of you guys, if y'all were interested, be involved. I can explain to you guys, and I would show up and help do that.
Sure. I have a question. I know, Billy, I've had a lot of phone calls about this, and a lot of them is going back to what will these apartments be like? Will they be low government income housing or be higher end? Yeah. I'm thinking higher end.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And then we touched on the condo apartment thing. We're calling them condos, but they're really going to be treated like apartments because if you open up your first building, you sell your first unit, and then you turn around and sell to somebody else, and then you don't have any control of who's in there. So typically, what he's done in the past, he controls who comes in there. They got to be financially qualified. It's not Section 8 government housing or anything like that. They got to fill out, credit checks, all that good stuff. I know people that live in the ones in Satsuma, and I've driven back there, and I think it's nice, and I think it's, I'm not going to insult somebody that lives back there by saying that they're not living in a nice spot, because I think they do. They got nice brick columns, wrought iron fencing, and I've been inside a few of them, and I thought they were really nice.
Billy, I got a question.
Thank you.
Just a question. So we talked about the sewer and tying it into the Livingston Parish sewer system as being a possibility. We talked about the traffic being issues on the parish road, and we got a semi-promise here that the main entrance would be tied into 447, and that they would only use the entrance to Bonnie Blue in emergency situations.
It doesn't say in emergency situations.
Correct. That's correct. That's correct. So what I'm asking is it? This is just general question because I'm unclear. Can we go back and redo the preliminary plat to where that is documented that that's the plan that's being approved? I mean, is that a possibility? Is that an abnormal request, Mr. Moody? Well, I mean, it sounds like to me that you're making all these changes and promises verbally, but there's really nothing in writing on those promises. Well, I don't know.
I'd like
How
to
do you
answer
feel
that.
about that? I just want to know.
That's a great question, and I'll let Mr. Gary chime in if he'd like. So first of all, I wouldn't want to 100% say we're going 447 if he's not able to get a permit or take 10 years to get an environmental permit or DOTD permit.
Right.
And the DOTD's got to give us permission. So and it says in there, in good faith. This is what I'm going to try to do. I think if we want to work on language of a letter that would go on file, that he would work on that to suit you guys. But again, I think they have a right to tie into Bonnie Blue also. Hey, I'm talking to you guys. So anyway, as far as the laws are written, the ordinances are written, it's a public road. Public road was stubbed up into this property for a purpose. You know, we were involved in the subdivision earlier, so I think they have the right. Again, we can talk about it and go back and forth and argue, but in good faith, he's offering to, this is what I'm gonna try to do to be a good neighbor. So,
Okay, so I got one more question too. We're talking about changing the ordinance to require a 100-year flood plan. 25. Would they be willing to do that too?
yeah, right now it does say you have to detain the 100-year, but we'll also look at and consider the 25 and 100-year. I think we still right now we have to detain the 100-year. That's what we've been doing. So you know, we can agree to do that. And you know, we know there's some sensitive flooding in the area, especially the trailer park that you drive past when you're coming in. It goes underwater with little rain. So we're kind of trying to keep a little buffer around that, and we agree to do that.
Chad, in the preliminary on this deal, what did y'all talk about on drainage? Did y'all try to be net neutral, or what did y'all have any?
Just say that the drainage impact study is gonna have to be done completed.
Okay, so I mean, so if he does it and does the 10 and 100s on it initially, are you gonna request the 25 later, or?
He sounds like he's willing to do it now. Gary.
Do the 25 now?
I mean, I'm saying basically we detained the 10-year and the 100-year, but no net increase on the 10-year, but we also detained the 100-year. We've been doing that, so
okay.
You know, we'll meet with the ordinance currently says, and as far as the 100-year, 25-year, we will detain those. That means you can't ever top a bank.
Right, so you're gonna look at the 100-year downstream impact and make sure that there's no ill effect.
Yeah, we make sure that our 100-year storm that we hold it on our site and it's not spilling over to the neighbors.
And how many actual individual residences is it?
152. Yeah. A lot of people were confused because multifamily, they thought like 3 different families live in one unit, but it's actually 152 units.
It's not 152 buildings, it's just 152 units.
And so can I answer any other questions as far as from you guys, infrastructure or about the site?
I don't think, Bill, I know what y'all do when you do the engineering on this. I know it firsthand, and it's done very well, and the drainage is impeccable. Something I've seen. So, we needed to jump that up, and we have. The parish has really gotten real strict on drainage, and it's a good thing.
Okay, so I think at this time, I'm sorry to cut everybody off, but it's really getting late, and we have several other items that needs to be discussed. Some of them may even be lengthy. So at this time, I feel like the council has been informed of all the concerns have been addressed.
Well, let's not forget where this construction equipment is, or how it's gonna come in and out of this project site for the next several years.
Glad you brought that up. I had it written in my notes, but I had so many notes. When I was talking about the 447 entrance, obviously our construction traffic would go through there, not Bonnie Blue. That was our intention.
If the permits don't take too long.
Yeah, and we don't usually have to get a lot of permits for construction traffic, so it's building the road, doing the permits.
So it's your intent to build a construction entrance on 447?
Yeah, we're gonna, or any other access we can do, try to stay after subdivision. Yes, sir. Like I said, I had it right here. I just didn't.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Say that again. We really need to move on, but I'm going to take this one last question. But you really need to come up to the podium and say who you are and state your address. And this is the very last question on this topic.
Hello, my name is Allison Forbes. I live at 25635 Buffwood Street. And my question about this proposal is, I want to know how well his other properties are maintained. You guys have addressed the fact that you want to make sure that our quality of life isn't impacted. I want to know how has the quality of life around his other properties been impacted by their buildings that have been added to their, just to the areas in general, and how well are they maintained is my main concern about this property, since they are going to be apartments and not individually owned condos.
So your question is how are we gonna regulate how the?
No, how is he going to ensure?
How's he keep up his stuff?
Properties, and if you've been to Summa Crossing, it's
It's
really
nice,
nice.
it's nice. It's gonna be as nice as the
Mr.
residential
Lewis still
property
takes
in
care of it.
Woodland Crossing.
Well, I mean, I could be wrong, and if I am, please let me know. But doesn't he have property around LSU that is in shambles?
That's a different Lewis property.
Okay.
There's a Lewis Properties in Baton Rouge, and it's a Gary Lewis Properties, and you're talking about Lewis Properties in Baton Rouge.
I live. Yeah, we don't get any say on what they keep up.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't. Well, there are some regulations, about cutting grass and keeping trash in your yard and things like that, but everybody would be treated the same.
Look for a motion.
Thank you.
I
Hey,
can
so-
tell you this, he has a complex that's in my district of Satsuma. I don't get any complaints. I get no complaints from anybody. If I do have a problem, I know I can call him and he'll take care of it. All I can do is go off to the property that's actually in Satsuma in my district, and I don't have an issue with it.
Okay, I want to say one last thing before we call for the vote. This vote tonight is for a preliminary plat, okay, to move forward with the studies. It is not a permit, and it is not a vote to start construction, okay? There will be another council meeting approving the final plat, correct, Sam?
No, it don't come back to us.
No, there won't be.
It don't come back?
There won't be another council meeting.
They
but this
get
doesn't-
to determine
They still gotta
that.
do all the studies. But this doesn't grants access to the studies, but as long as they meet the guidelines within the studies, then the permits can be issued.
So just go ahead and say yes.
Okay, I call for the vote, Sandy.
Well, you
You
can't
got a
We gotta have
motion?
first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
You need to,
You're young, son. It'll be
Okay, I'm new at this, this is my first night, but, do we have a motion to,
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
motion from Scooter.
we have a motion from Scooter King. Do we have a second?
What's the motion?
We have a second
To
from Mr. Jeff Ard. The motion is to approve the preliminary plat for Starwood Knoll commercial development. Sandy, can you call for the vote?
Mr. Garlinghouse.
No.
Mr. R.
Yes.
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 Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
No.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
No.
Mr. Averett.
No.
Mr. Lovell.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion fails.
I'd like to say something. I'd like to say something. This doesn't really kill the development. This just means that I would like to see some changes made in another preliminary plat. Okay, so let's move on to.
Take a break. Let them clear.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Channel 17, proudly serving the Florida parishes.
Mr. R.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Averett.
Here.
Mr. Lovell.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
We didn't clear the house out completely. What's going on?
Okay, Mr. Sam, we're ready for you.
Okay, guys, next on the agenda will be a multifamily development. This is Cecil Drive Townhomes. This is in Mr. Gary Talbot's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Cecil Drive Townhomes with the waiver on the buffer zone, encroachment and contingent on during a 100-year flood and traffic impact study with zero runoff.
My understanding is that the engineer's already sent a revised plat to get out of the buffer zone because he doesn't want to do 100-year stormwater runoff. So because he's shrunk the thing from 7 to 6, it's outside the 10% that was voted on by the. I'd just like to make a motion to send it back to plan. But the whole project's changed. It's gone from a seven unit to 6 unit deal. It's on 4.41 acres or something like that. 0.47. So the scope's already outside the 10% that was voted on last night. So I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and send it back to plan.
I have a motion to send item 15A, Cecil Drive.
I'll second that.
We have a second. The first motion was by Gary Frog Talbert. Second was by Scooter King. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to discuss this topic?
Good evening, Sean Hyman with Alvin Fairburn Associates. Albert is correct. There was made some revisions to the plan to lessen the impact that we were proposing. We went from 7 units down to 6 units. Parking spaces, we dropped that down. Less building, less pavement, more green space. The previous layout, there was a small encroachment from a corner of the building. By eliminating that additional unit, we eliminated that encroachment and therefore eliminated any need for a variance. So the current plan that was submitted this morning meets all the parish requirements, no waivers, no variances. So we would certainly appreciate taking action on it tonight.
Chad, does that constitute needing to go back to you guys and to Joe? Joe?
Well, I mean, if it's something that's being talked about in front of you guys are the ultimate body and decide on it. I mean, it's up to you guys to be on the same back.
You want to see it go like that, or you think we'd be okay moving it?
I'm okay with it because it's going down, it's a reduction, it's over the 10%, so technically it's supposed to come back.
It's going down instead of up.
But it's going down instead of up. But that's up to y'all. We'll look at it again next month.
Here's the deal. It's a multifamily development. In a subdivision that the drainage fails on now. We're talking about a subdivision that has a junior high and elementary school in the back of it, that the sheriff's office has to monitor, put 2 units in front of at 16 and Cecil every day the school's in operation to control the flow of traffic. This development does not benefit the health, safety, and welfare of the public or the people that reside in Jones. So consequently, I'm not in favor of it. However, you know, you've got to establish, you know, why you're not in favor of it. Basically, as it stands right now, the drainage in Jones Estate's a fail. It's a fail because Harrison Lateral's overtaxed and it's too small and it needs to be improved. The Gravity Drainage District has studied it. I think they're looking at right-of-way acquisition now, but as it stands right now, this is a fail for the people that live in that area. We're talking about, you know, there's been some improvements in Jones Estates since we've been in office, and they've been done by the parish and the Gravity Drainage District together. However, we're still talking about a situation that in a rain, we have roads that go underwater, and people are concerned about flooding. And believe it or not, post-flood stress disorder is something that's real, because you and I both know when it starts raining and the water starts rising, those people start calling and they're not very happy. So consequently, I think given the impact on the community and the fact that it's a fail on drainage, I'm not in favor, but I'm willing, because they made a change, to send it back to planning and let planning look at it again. But I'm not in favor of passing it tonight as it exists.
Okay, we have a motion, we got a second. We call for the vote.
It's
To
your
send it
district,
back.
right?
The motion is to send it back to, yes? Don't forget this. Okay.
So, really simple. One, we're meeting all parish requirements with this. We're not asking for anything out of the ordinary. We're not coming in here adding 30 or 40 units to an overstressed, overtaxed area. These are nice townhomes in a suitable area for townhomes. If y'all have looked at the aerial views we sent in, there's multifamily in the area, there's commercial in the area, there's daycares in the area, there's restaurants in the area. Just because there's an existing drainage issue that's out of our control does not give anybody the right to say you can't do what's legal and abiding on your property. It's not fair. It's not fair to the property owner. We have to meet the drainage requirements. We've already, y'all seen the plans, subsurface drainage, detention ponds. We're meeting the needs. It's going to drain better there than it ever has. Look at the plans and you'll see.
Have to have a traffic study also, Joe and Chad? As a commercial.
Because it's multifamily.
That's why it needs to go back to planning.
But
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be honest with you. As it stands right now, there's a fail on the drainage in there. And any development that's gonna put additional water out is not gonna take care of, the people. And it's gonna be a detriment to the community. And I believe it's our responsibility, if a development negatively impacts the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens, that we have the right to deny it. And so I wanna send it back to planning and let them revisit it.
I'll make one more comment.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
So I've spent some time in that area on the property. The ditches in that area are not good. It's not the property owner's fault. The neighbor just to the west of me, ditches are completely full. Can't even see the culverts. Right? But yet it's my fault because I want to add 6 units, barely bigger than a residential home. And we're talking about what, 3,500 square foot of, I think we're 3,500 square foot of slab. I mean, this is not some gigantic thing that's going to create some massive outpour. I mean, if anything, we're catching the runoff that's not being caught now. It's better than a residential home. A residential home has compacted clay with grass over the top of it. When rain hits it, the water sheds, hits the ditch, and runs. What we have is a subsurface drainage system that catches that water and sends it to a detention area. So I don't believe that drainage is an efficient, applicable reason to deny my project. And I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Chairman, may I be heard? I
Yes.
want to remind the council that maybe I should have done this earlier in the evening. You have to have valid reasons to reject a preliminary plat. Each ordinance, they don't seek a variance. Extremely careful about denying it. Suppose you not just the parish to liability, but each individual councilman has personal liability, because it could be considered an arbitrary decision, especially if you've allowed one property owner to make a development and not others. So this particular motion is okay. It could be sent back to zoning, but if ultimately that's going to go back to zoning and it has no variances, it's going to come back to you sooner or later. So you're probably okay on this motion. I'm just cautioning you about rejecting preliminary plats that your professionals and the planning, the zoning commission says meet your ordinance.
That's why I didn't ask to kill it. I just asked to send it back to zoning so it could be revisited.
Call for the vote.
The motion again is to?
The motion is to send this particular development back to plan. So they can identify the changes and you can go ahead and act.
I was gonna say the reason, just to clarify in my head again, but the reason you're sending it back is changes that come about last night during the meeting?
The recommendation from zoning was 100-year stormwater retention and 0 runoff. So they're gonna look at a 100-year range, they're gonna retain a 100-year range through a 24-hour period, they're gonna have 0 additional runoff. They were gonna do a traffic study and they were gonna grant the waiver. So that was the vote, 5 to 4 out of zoning, if they did that. They amended plot plan so that they didn't need the waiver. Means they have no intention of doing a 100-year stormwater retention. So consequently, since the plot plan was amended, we're gonna send it back to zoning so they can revisit it next month.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm ready to call for the vote.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. LaVille.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess that'd be 15B.
Yes, sir. Next on your agenda is a minor resub with a waiver. This is for Mr. George and I guess Miss Karen Kippers, Burns, lot size waiver. This is in Mr. Tracy Garlinghouse's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the lot size waiver for George and Miss Karen Kippers. And I might say that there is community sewer there, and they will meet the requirements for that with dropping this lot size down.
Yes, I actually walked up there and looked at this. You go into the entrance to Sealy Garden, property on the north side, as you drive into the newly constructed entrance off of Jubin. In no way does it affect the aesthetics of the neighborhood, you know, and these lots are actually bigger than the average size lot within the neighborhood itself. So, even though they require a waiver because it's not actually a neighborhood, it's individual lots for the subdivision, I'm good with it.
If y'all remember, we talked about this in ordinance committee before, and the only reason there's 3 or 4 things that were addressed at the same time, and if you remember, we couldn't come to terms on one of the lot sizes, and I think this would fit within what we had talked about. It just had to become an ordinance yet because we hadn't figured out some of the details. So I think it's the intention that we're going to address this next Thursday night.
Yeah.
This particular, the ordinance that would affect this will be addressed next Thursday night.
I see no reason to hold it up.
Yes,
It's gonna have to be.
I'll make a motion that we.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion. We have a. Do we have a second? We have a second by Mr. Scooter King. Call for the vote.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. LaVille.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Okay, next on your agenda is an exchange of property lines with a waiver. This is Mr. Brad Marcotte Construction. This is in Mr. Scooter King's district, off of Dunn Road, Nettleville Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the waiver for lot size for Mr. Brad Marcotte Construction.
Yeah, I talked to Brad about this, and what he had 2 lots that kind of made an L, and one landowner wants a bigger lot, and the other one was okay with a smaller lot. And I think it was, do you remember last night, Chad, or Sam? It still was over to, Billy was there, and we was all there last night.
It's still over the 12,000.
Still over the 12,000 that we're gonna approve, so it makes no sense not to grant this. So I make a motion to accept it as approved.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Scooter King. We have a second by Mr. Tracy Garlinghouse. Can we call for the vote?
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. LaVille.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Okay, next on your agenda is a servitude revocation. This is in Mr. Bubba Harris's district for Mr. Jason Simcoe and Mr. William Savard Jr. Oak Hills Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the servitude revocation for Jason Simcoe and Mr. William Savard Jr. I might say that all our letters are in place as far as no objection. This was a servitude on the back end of their property. They bought the property behind them, so they want to do away with that servitude. And this is in Mr. Bubba's district.
All right.
And I'm all for motion.
Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Mr. Bubba T. Harris. We have a second by Mr. John Wascom. Call for the vote.
This is an introduction of an ordinance.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah,
that's
so I need
right.
to read it by
Service,
title.
servitude revocation.
Yeah, and then set the public hearing, so I'll read it real quick.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, this will be our very first ordinance for this year. Ordinance number 19-09. This is an ordinance as follows to wit. Revoking the dedication, abandoning, and quitclaiming in favor of Jason Simcoe and William Savard Jr. 15-foot servitude identified by the crosshatch portion as shown on the map showing the survey of the revocation of the 15-foot servitude across lots 41A in section 16, township 7 south, range 3 east, Greensburg Land District, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, by Brett J. Martin, professional land surveyor, dated September 20th, 2017. Public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on January 24th, 2019.
Thanks, Sandy. Glad you know exactly.
We won't get there, Shane.
Okay, I call for the vote.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wassman.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell.
Yes.
You said yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Mr. Harris.
next
Yes.
on your agenda is a commercial development. This is Best Stop number 33. Imagine that. This is in Mr. Tab Lobell's district off Highway 63 in Oliver Wheat, right down the road here.
Damn, how many best stops you got?
It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Best Stop number 33.
Can I ask Chris a question? I sell fuel to these people at Best Stop 3 on Walker Side. How do I handle it?
I think that's probably okay. It's just a typical customer, right?
Right, I
You
mean,
don't-
so do I
Just
as long
recuse
as I
yourself.
acknowledge it, or I need to recuse
You can
myself?
announce and recuse.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Tab Lobell. We have a second by Jeff Avery. Is there anybody out there have anything to say about this particular item? All right, I call for the vote.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wassman.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
I'll recuse myself.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Okay, next on your agenda is another commercial development. The Oaks Office Park. This is in Mr. John Wasson's district, off of Vincent Road, or on Vincent Road, actually.
Yes.
It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for the Oaks office.
Thank you. It's on Vincent Road. It's a great place to have a commercial site right there. That area is just starting to develop down on the south side of Denham Springs right there. And there's and I feel like these are the type of commercial businesses that they're looking to attract in that area. So it's very, very good. So I'd appreciate your support of this one. So I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. John Watson, and we have a second by Mr. Gutierrez. Is there any discussion on this? Call for the vote.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wassman.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda, multifamily development, Hunstock Park, preliminary site plan. This is in Mr. Gary Talbot's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Hunstock Park.
You know, you heard me talk about, not wanting a multifamily development in one area because of drainage issues. I actually live in Hunstock Hills, and the watershed for the existing piece of property that this development's gonna go on sheds through the second file in the Huntstock, and then through the file that I live in on the way to Beaver Creek. But this is a development that's actually gonna improve the drainage in the area. Meaning they're gonna divert the water from where it is and put it on Highway 16, you know, a state highway with ditches designed to handle the water flow in the area. There are 4 principals in there. 3 of them have lived in Watson, I guess, y'all's whole life, you know, and so they're people that are vested in the community. I think it's a project that has benefit to the area, and I would like to make a motion to support approving the preliminary plot plan.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion by Gary Frog Talbert. We have a second by Mr. Scooter King. I call for the vote. Any discussion on this particular line item? Anybody? I call for the vote.
Mr. Grillenhouse?
Yes.
Mr. Ora?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Lidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is a waiver to place a mobile home in Live Oak Acres subdivision. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to deny the waiver request to place the mobile home in Live Oak Acres subdivision. I might say this is in Mr. Bubba Harris's district.
Okay, is there any
That was
discussion
looked
on
at
this
through-
particular line item? All right,
Sir?
there's a discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Yes, I'd like to be recognized, please. I was at the
State
Planning
your
and
name and
Zoning.
your address, I'm sorry.
Sure, Gaynell Maggio. My address is 25081 Denver Street in Denham Springs, of course. So a lot of you may, or whoever attended the Planning and Zoning Commission last night is going to probably hear a repeat, but let me make some points for you for consideration. I am the current owner, my husband and I. I'm also a realtor who I've listed the property. It's under contract for a potential buyer who has requested that a permit or a variance be provided to him so that he could place a mobile home on the rear of the property out of sight from the road for a family member. And so this is kind of part of our agreement, and that's why we're here. We're going through the proper channels. We've been working on this since December when we went under contract, and we've presented documentation that was required along with plat maps. But I understand since this, well, let me give you a little bit of background. The subdivision was developed in about 1953. It's not the first time the subdivision's been in the news or has had issues with mobile homes. I'll be the first to admit that. It's got a history that was prior to me being there. But what has happened is this is a large lots, acreage lots for the most part, that have been divided and subdivided many times. So you end up with grandma and grandpa that parse them off and give to their son and daughter, and then they have children, and so you've got family plots, basically, a lot of those in that subdivision. In fact, Mr. Harris was even raised there, so he's familiar with that area, which is great. That's a family atmosphere everybody belongs to have in a subdivision. So the dynamics are, it's a rural type neighborhood, not one of these newer developed neighborhoods, and it has families in it. Very stable neighborhood. Most everybody's kin to everybody in there. So with that, I bought a lot there in 2003 and decided to build a home, of course. There was a mobile home directly across the street that was told to me that there's restrictions against mobile homes that were done in 1953 when the subdivision was established. But at the time I bought the lot, there were several mobile homes already in that subdivision. And it was told to me by the realtor that sold it to me that that mobile home across from this particular lot was put there on a hardship case, and that it would be moved or removed from the property once the elderly people that were living in it passed away. One of those people has since is deceased. The gentleman's still there, and I bought the lot knowing that and accepted it. It was fine. On that same piece of property, fast forward a couple of years, in 2017, following the flood, I looked out my window one day and I see a double wide being moved on the same lot directly behind the house. So I called, I said, what's going on? I was told that there's no law against it because of the flood. You know, y'all were making exceptions for people to keep them in the parish. They needed homes. The homes were not livable. They needed a place to go, and this was all good. I'm okay with that. I now have a potential buyer who wants to do the exact same thing that's been done for many years in the same neighborhood for his family member. And he's here to speak on that. So I'll let him address it, or his agent. But my part in this is I understand through this process. I'm the registered landowner, so I have to kind of go through this process. It's not me that's putting the mobile home there, it's the buyer. And I'm speaking on his behalf to help him get that accomplished. I understand now there's a new ordinance that's been passed, which is a blanket ordinance that says no mobile homes can be placed in named subdivisions. And here's my issue with that. You just want to cover every subdivision. And I think it's really important to note the history of the subdivision, the dynamics of the subdivision, and there are 6 mobile homes there now, and I'd like to give this chief, I may approach, to look at what I have. There are 6 mobile homes there. Many of them have been there for many years, and nobody there has a real issue with that because the people have gone through the proper channels to have them put there. Now, since that law has come into effect, I've got the reverse situation. The buyer wants to put a mobile home and is being told the law doesn't allow them, which is kind of a catch-22. There were variances granted in the past on every one of these situations. And what I am proposing to kind of make things fair and in keeping with what's going on in that neighborhood is that there be some sort of limited variance granted, just exactly like the property directly across the street from me. This gentleman has someone that wants to put a mobile home in the rear of the property, and I will tell you, and he can speak for it, it's going to be out of sight. I'm on a dead end, which is extremely important. Nobody passes in front of my house. The only place I have, the only place I can see is people across the street from me, and there's where the mobile homes are. So it's not going to affect any aesthetic value to anyone else in that neighborhood because nobody comes back to my corner back there. I have woods on 2 sides of the tree line and the neighbor street across the street. So I just want you to look at the situation, take that into consideration, and try to be fair with maybe a limited variance for his benefit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to talk about this?
Yeah, my name is Sandra Richard. I represent the client. Been a real estate agent for 21 years. I just recently moved to this in Baton Rouge. I live in Live Oak Landing. So I have a purchase agreement on this property for over, I won't say what it is, but it's over $300,000. There are, we went through the right protocol and the formality like y'all told us to do. I'm holding a permit from the permit department that was issued to us. I'm also holding a separate address. I understand you never deny family petitions. So that means my buyer's got to what? Buy the property and come back and do the formality? I'm confused. I'm holding a permit from the permit department. It says, yeah, and here's the new address in the man's name. The man is his uncle. The buyer is here. He's in his, I don't know, Adam, how old are you, 30, 34, 40? I don't know. His uncle's 70. He just wants to be on the property behind a 30 by 40 huge workshop on a dead-end street with woods all around it for 3 months out of the year. Right. He's not a full-time resident, but he wants to be where his family is. He didn't deny family petitions. He just wants to die. He has to come home. He wants to die there. And Adam doesn't want that mobile home on that property no more after his uncle passes away. That's all I got to say about it.
All right, we have someone else that would like to speak on this particular line item. Don't forget to state your name and your address.
My name is Lynn Watson Ray, and I was born and raised in the home that I live in on 25031 Live Oak Street. I outbid my mom's second husband by $5,000 to buy it. I can say this, we have had issues with mobile homes in the past, and there's a reason why you enacted the ordinance, and that's to protect property values for the entire parish. After the flood, I think things kind of went a different way. They're asking for a variance for someone who doesn't even own property in our subdivision yet. And I can tell you, there are 70-plus homeowners that are not represented here. Most of us are not in agreements with it. We understand we do have some in there, and that they do need to stay until the person has passed or their time moves on or they build. But we wanted to make a precedence at this point to agree with the ordinance and not allow any additional in. Once that's done, then we could move forward with maintaining our property values and so forth. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to talk about? Come on up, Mr. Joe. Don't forget to say who you are, just for the record.
You don't know who I am? Joe Kozrowski, reside in District 5. I'm the chairman of the Planning Commission. Guys, we talked about this for a while last night, went over it and over and over it, and we were advised by our attorney, which is your attorney, that if we grant this, it opens every lot in that subdivision that you can't turn them down. Okay, a lot of the houses that she was talking about, and there's family, those lots have been subdivided over the years. So they're not on the same piece of property. They're subdivided into individual lots with individual addresses. But if you open it up to this subdivision, everybody in there can do it. You can't turn them down. Chris said, you know, it could possibly overflow into another subdivision. It could go into another subdivision in Oak Hills or anywhere else. So, you know, just before you make that decision, we're opening up a can of worms for 75 or 80 lots in there automatically, with the possibility of opening them up to other subdivisions. You know, so I would just think about that and ask Mr. Chris, because he discussed it. Y'all were in our meeting last night and he discussed it.
We couldn't get in.
And, you know, so that's just some food for thought. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so,
Let's get Mr. Chris's opinion, because everybody wasn't there last month.
that's a great idea.
Well, what I reminded the Planning Commission is that you got to treat everybody equally. So once you grant a variance, you have to grant variances for every other person equally situated. So, for instance, if you grant a variance in one subdivision, it's be very difficult not to grant someone else in the same subdivision asking for a variance. Or an extension of that is you could say if you granted a variance to a subdivision that had 6 trailers in it already, if they've got 6 trailers in it already and you granted it once, then you'll be opening that door. That's the point I was trying to make. So it's within your discretion to grant this or not. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I'm all for a motion to go with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and deny this.
We have a motion by Bubba T. Harris to deny. To go with the. We have a. Can you repeat that, Mr. Bubba? What's your motion?
Is to go with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and deny this.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Bubba T. Harris to go with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and deny the waiver.
So motion to deny.
Motion to
All
deny.
right, I second.
We have a second.
No,
Is there any more discussion? I call for the vote.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
I had to think about it.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Lovell.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Motion passes. Waiver request is denied. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Item number 16. We have a. All right. Let's backward. Oh yeah, we do. Okay. Item number 10. Discussion of parish-wide recycling services.
Just wait a second, let them get out.
Yeah.
You got anything else? Matt? Are you doing Homeland Security in them?
No. I'll do that.
Give
Okay.
Chris 1 minute.
Okay, item number 10, discussion of parish-wide recycling services. I'd like to say that I was contacted by Miss Muriel Laws, who lives south of Walker in Woodland Crossing subdivision. I've also been contacted by multiple constituents that I go to church with that would like to see in some way, shape, or form, some method that would give them the ability to recycle. And so we put this on, I requested this be on the agenda for discussion, and I'd like to open the door to Ms. Muriel Laws. Can you state your name and your address, Ms. Muriel?
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Muriel Laws. I live in 26253 Popular Glen Drive in Woodland Crossing, and I'd like to thank you for allowing me this opportunity because it's a very important matter. But before I speak as Muriel Laws, I would like to say that I'm coming with a signed petition by 500 of my neighbors, 500 of your constituents regarding this recycling effort that we are trying to get. So I'm not speaking just for Muriel Laws. I am speaking for 500 residents up there. But I want to say this. According to the U.S. Census in 2017, Livingston Parish estimated population was 138,000. It had a growth rate of 1.32%, which you probably already know. Since I have lived in Livingston Parish since 2007. Over the last 5 years, as you probably know, we have had an amazing growth. We have had a hospital, we've had 2 dealerships, we've had a mall, we've had multiple apartment complexes, as we were discussing this evening. We've had developments, we had schools. So we've had a number of growth in Livingston Parish. And the last thing is that we had a traffic roundabout to help with the traffic flow. But my question to you tonight is, why is it that we're standing here today talking about recycling? Why is it in 2019 we're talking about needing recycling? Why is it that we have all this growth but no services such as holes in the street, animal control, sinkholes, and just more importantly, recycling? Everybody knows what recycling is. I hope that everybody knows what recycling is, but we do know, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, that it reduces the amount of waste to the landfills and incinerators and conserves natural resources such as water and minerals. My question again is, after 2016, when we had Livingston Waste providing the services, why is it that we don't have this now? Where did it go? Where did these services go? Why did it stop? When I walked the neighborhood, I knocked on every door that I could in Woodland Crossing and beyond. I have been approached by people from as far as South Point, Livingston Trace. I have gone up Buddy Ellis, down Bobby Gill, and all I hear is, why don't we have it? Why don't we have recycling? Where did it go? That was a unified message from everybody that I talked to. So I understand that I had 3 minutes, so I'm just going to close with this. This signed petition of 500 residents, 500 constituents, 500 families are asking, as well as myself, since 2016 when our recycling services was abruptly ended, where has all the toxic, non-biodegradable items gone? And why has it been so difficult for Livingston Parish and the Parish Council to place their constituents' needs as a #1 priority with providing safe environmental protective services for our community? I ask that you put recycling on the next ballot. I ask that we vote to bring recycling back to Livingston Parish, especially to where I live in Woodland Crossing and my surrounding areas. I hope that you take this into consideration because it is a very important matter for us all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Any more discussion from the audience?
What,
All right.
what was your first name, if I may say something?
Muriel.
Miriam?
U-R-I-E-L.
Miriam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Miriam, my name is John Wascom, and I just want to tell you something real quick. In the city of Denham Springs, there was a big push to start recycling some time ago, and a lot of people were really unsure about it. And it wasn't near about as complicated. And there's different forms of recycling. I mean, we've got the one on Pete's Highway that people bring scrap iron and refrigerators, and they divide it all up into copper and steel, and then they recycle that, as opposed to going to landfill, and where they take a refrigerator, they actually get $20 for it, or if you take it to landfill, you got to pay $20 to get rid of it. So there is some smart economic sense in some recycling, but in Denham I found it to be a little bit easier than I thought. All we did was get with our local garbage pickups, which was at the time I think we used Progressive. Republic. Now, you're in a large neighborhood, correct?
Yes.
You know, it would be really easy just to speak to the garbage provider and say, look, we as a neighborhood want to do a recycling, and I'm sure they probably have that. They'll bring you a separate garbage can, and it really doesn't even have to go through the government. You could probably take it up straight with the garbage collector. I mean, if you need our support, I'm sure we'll be glad to support you with that.
And I'm so glad that
And
you
they'll put a
mentioned
recycle can there, and that day of the week you roll it out to the road, which is what we do in Denham Springs, if that's for residential recycling. Because I think of the other as more commercial recycling, like where you bring the stuff there.
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
So I just wanted to tell you, if y'all pull together as a neighborhood, you could probably get as much done as government can.
Well, again, and I'm sorry if it felt like I was trying to interrupt you, but I'm so glad you mentioned that. I have put a call into Waste Management. I have been told that it is too costly to do that type of service, which again, it doesn't make any sense. That the fact that we have increased in population by almost 30% just in that area alone, how can you tell me that there is no demand for that type of service? So I have contacted Waste Management. Now, what Waste Management does not know or do not know is that I have 500 of their customers who we will probably, since if we don't get anything with you all, they will know that we will speak throughout services with them. So yes, I will contact them again and let them know that I have.
And that's a big neighborhood. And if you get one other neighborhood to maybe join a big one as well, that are close proximity, you have a lot of buying power.
So if I leave here today, I'm leaving here knowing that the council cannot help us? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a private enterprise. We can't control that, and even though if we would like it, I would like it at my house. Like what he said, a lot of them did recycle, and I lived in the Willows in Denham Springs back then, and they canceled it because it was too costly for the company to process.
Well, you can speak to this. Didn't the council at one point in time try mandatory garbage pickup in the parish?
Oh, yes.
He got blasted.
Why don't you go and give us a history of how mandatory garbage pickup, when it was in Livingston Parish, because that's what it would require.
You mean recycling?
No,
garbage pickup, recycling and mandatory pickup would have to
They go hand in hand.
from the government to ensure the guarantee. Right now, it's, your garbage collection is an option, that you have as a citizen of Livingston Parish.
But in Denham, it's not.
We had it mandatory, but there was one big problem with that. Collecting for it.
Yeah, enforcement.
And there was no way to collect it. The utility companies wouldn't collect it for you. They just didn't want to get involved in it. So therefore it was just, they had to stop it. And that's when they went to this service they have now.
So it's my understanding that the residents of Livingston Parish, if they require recycling services, and Waste Management, who is a privately owned business, has no type of regulation with the council at all to ensure that this type of service is provided to their constituents. Okay. Is there a reason why the council cannot take that upon themselves to maybe make that part of a service?
I'd like to say something.
Budgetary constraints
Yeah.
for recycling?
The recycling, actually, I think that if I'm not mistaken, the last time Baton Rouge had a bid, that recycling added to the cost of garbage pickup. It didn't subtract from the cost of garbage pickup.
You know, I can't really, I'd like to say something,
Go ahead.
please. I can't really speak for waste management, but I do happen to communicate with the individuals that run that company, and I know that they do care and want to provide the service that the Livingston Parish constituents want. And so I think that one of the reasons why I wanted to put you on the agenda was because I personally think that you should have the right to recycle if you so choose. And, you know, I think that's a good thing, and preserve the earth and teach your children to do that, and let's you know, preserve our resources. Okay, so I think that, I mean, I would be willing to, I can't force anybody to do anything, but I would be willing to take some action to communicate with, you know, the senior management with waste management and see if we can't, not mandatory, not raise, not pass no tax, no extra, you know, I don't want people to have to be forced to pay or nothing like that, you know, but I think that we could work something out. I think that they would be willing to work something out and provide the constituents of Livingston Parish that service. And I think what we should do here is just simply communicate again in about 30 days. And let's see, I'll contact, you know, them within that time frame, and let's just see what they say.
Would you like to take this with you?
I trust you, and I think that you should hold on to that.
Okay.
And that if I need it, I'll call you.
Because I can get more.
There's constituents from my area that would like to see
in the
it.
late 90s, Waste Management had a recycling program.
Right.
And they shut it down.
Right.
If it was profitable, it would still be running. Plain and simple. I don't know, but I'm just saying, they're not in the business of not making money.
No, I think what
We would have
happened
to
there.
find a company that would want to come in here and do this.
Yeah,
I agree with that, yeah.
I mean, we would have to have a company.
I
don't
think
know
what
if
happened-
men even does that anymore.
I think what happened there, guys, is that there was a lack of interest at that particular point in time, and that maybe nowadays there's more people that want to do that. So I think that
Won't hurt anything for
we
you to
could
pursue.
try it again. You know, it won't hurt anything for me to try. So I think that that's the direction we'll go.
Chairman Mack, I appreciate your effort, and you have my number.
Yep.
And I will be a willing partner for you, so you just let me know, okay? And I thank you again.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Okay, so does anybody else have anything to say about that? Come on up.
My name is Lori Colley. I live at 1011 Bay Tree Drive, and I live in the Willows in Denham Springs. And I tell you right now, I recycle. I don't just recycle. I live in the biggest neighborhood in Denham Springs, and everybody else in that neighborhood recycles. Yes, I do pay a little bit extra. The amazing thing is, my neighbors, and there are a lot more than 500, we all recycle. Why do we recycle? Because I got 3 kids, and I want them to grow up in a place that's clean. I saw the crap that came around after the flood. It was everywhere. And it's cardboard, and it's paper, and it's stuff that, you know what? We don't need it in our environment. And you know, I was willing to pay that price. It's not that much. It's on my water bill. But I think what Muriel's saying, what I agree, this is a choice. As a citizen of Denham Springs, as a citizen, a lifelong resident of Livingston Parish, it's important to keep our city clean. Y'all are talking about 20 years ago. It's today. Our kids are a whole lot more savvy than we are, and they want a clean environment, okay? We do too. But can't we do it this way? Yes, if Denham Springs has a program to do it, then there is somebody in this state who provides that service. We can contact them, but can't we as citizens, residents of Livingston Parish, have the opportunity to say, hey, yeah, I'm willing to pay it and I'm willing to recycle, or nope, don't want to do it. That's called voting, and that's called our speaking, okay? Y'all are all elected to speak for our voice. You got 500 people who just said, excuse me, we're willing to do it. The entirety of Denham Springs does it. And you know the amazing thing is, nobody fusses about it. We all just do it. And if you want to see it, come on Wednesdays, round to the Willows. Every house is recycling. And we don't have small recycles. People, we got cans that are this high, and they're filled every week. And by the way, we have 2 garbage pickups. Those are filled too. But when you come to recycle, that's a choice. What are we doing? Denham Springs is a whole lot cleaner than the rest of some of these areas in Livingston Parish. And by the way, I lived out in the country for years. I was born and raised. I know what we did with it. We would put it out on the burn pile. Okay? That was our recycling, but not anymore. We don't want it in our ditches. We don't want it in our community. We don't want it. So can't we have the opportunity to say yes or no? And that's what I think Muriel was asking. We just want a chance.
Who's the company that does it?
It's Progressive.
Progressive.
Yeah, Progressive. Well, and the thing about it, in Denham, I remember when I was on the council when we brought it in, and it was optional at one time. They had the little green sharp bins, and I was nervous about it. You know, why? It's going to cost us more money. But the city, the one thing that makes a difference is the city made you do it. And you don't have a choice. It's on your city bill. And so I didn't want to do it. I complained about it. But the city makes you do it. So then we get this green with the green lid, and I wound up using it. It's just another, because it really breaks my other garbage cans up a lot. It really works good. And so what makes Denham effective is that we mandate it.
Yeah.
Now, you gotta understand, we're a concentrated city versus the parish that's spread out. We could take that, we bid it out for the best competitor so we can get a really good price, where some of these other districts is not as well. That's why I brought it up to her, that Woodland is a concentrated neighborhood. Use that as your buying power.
Woodland is not a government entity, and they're not gonna do it. What I'm saying is, can't we as a parish have a vote on it? Lord, we're going to May, we're voting on it then too about the others, so why don't we have an opportunity maybe in November
Can I
to
say
have that?
We've tried to pass a school tax to build a new school. We've tried to pass drainage, and we've tried to pass recreation. And guess what?
Do you know what? The thing about that is, as a person who votes, and I vote every time, I had a voice in that.
I understand.
And you know what? I accepted. Whether I wanted those things or not, I had a voice. What I'm looking at right now is, we really are teaching our kids to clean their environment up, because I don't want a dirty environment. This is the same thing. And yeah, go to the city. Yeah, I lived out in the rural areas. I know what's on the back roads, okay? But I also know this.
Not as bad as it used to be.
Oh, I agree. I will agree. A lot went out with the flood. But you know what? The thing that amazes me is, if you start talking to people, even people you don't think would do it, they'll do it.
Oh, I enjoy it.
So I'm just saying for a voice. That's all. That's all Muriel's doing. Can we look at that?
So Shane,
we're gonna work something out.
Make a contact, and let's see where it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more.
Just
one more.
26364 Poplar Glen Drive. I just really, as a person of Woodland Crossing, I've lived there for several years. We used to have recycling in our neighborhood. We paid the extra for it. It was Livingston Waste was who we had, and once they closed down, it was no longer an option. When we contacted Waste Management, just so you know, as you contact them, we were willing to pay for it. We did have the bins, and we did use it. So as Muriel got the signature just from our subdivision, when we had the opportunity, we wanted it. It just was taken away from us with no other option. I just wanted you to have that to bring forward.
Very valuable information. One more.
I'm Robin Parrott. I live at 13464 Honor Road, Walker, Louisiana, Mr. Girlinghouse's district. I also have been talking about this with other people around me on our Nextdoor app. We've been asking, where is recycling? And it's something that is important. I'm a former school teacher, and I know that future generations, that's something that we care about. So you may think that people don't want to pay the tax, or they don't want to pay the extra money or spend the time, but our parish is growing. I attended the Keep Louisiana Beautiful conference this year, and we talked about each parish and what they've been doing. And I was very disappointed that Livingston Parish was not represented there. And when I talked to the environmental people, they said, well, they haven't heard from this chamber in years. And so I think that we need to look forward, look to the future. What are we doing as we are growing? as a parish? How are we attracting businesses when they come and look at our parish? They want to see clean. They want to see people taking care of their property. And right now, we just have that big landfill. What are we doing to make our parish cleaner and more attractive to young people and to keep them here in our area? So please consider it. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you so much. Okay. Everybody ready to move on to the next line item? Thanks for all that input. Okay. So we're gonna, item number 11 is adoption of the minutes from December 6th and the 20th. We're gonna table that till next meeting. Okay. Line item 13, Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Mr. Mark Harold is not here tonight. However, I skipped 12. This is Is there anything, excuse me, I need to go back to number 12, the parish president's report. Is there anything that the parish president would like to report?
No, just if you guys got anything, I'm here for you.
Oh, I thought you were here to okay, never mind.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you very much for that information. Okay, number 13. Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. Mr. Mark Harold is not with us tonight. However, we have Chad here that can speak on the next two topics. You have the floor, Mr. Chad.
Appreciate it, Shane. Yeah, just these are two different bridges that we're doing as one project with the all-system bridge program. These are waivers that DOTD needs. The resolution from you guys are just some very technical things that they want a bridge that's 28 foot wide when it's not necessary. So we're doing like a 24-foot bridge on George Machon. There's some other curves in there too that they have for low volume roads. So just their standards, we're asking to give a couple of deviations from, and thus with these two items for. One is Travis Street, that's in Walker, and the other one's George Machon, which I think is up in the northeast.
Yeah, that's in my district, up there in North Albany, Louisiana.
There you go.
Yeah. Where's that? And let me say that, I just want to say that this is in my opinion, a blessing to have these wooden bridges. They're, in my opinion, efficient. They're going to wind up being concrete and steel, and it's going to be really, really nice. And
yeah, and actually the Travis Street's going to go from a bridge to a box culvert, so that it's small enough to be able to do that. But the George Machon is going to be a concrete precast bridge. Yeah.
And so, do we have a motion? Well, let me ask, does anybody else have anything else to discuss on this particular topic? Is there anybody else here to talk about that?
How wide is the Travis Street bridge going to be?
No, the Travis Street's actually going to be a box culvert on that, so it's going to be.
Replace the box culvert?
That's right. It's going to match the same lane width that you have approaching it. So 18 or 20 foot, whatever the road is coming into it.
And it needs a waiver because it doesn't meet the standard that the state has set forth. If we want to design it different, or
yeah, that's right. There's let's see. The first one's Travis. So it's talking about just the lane width. We're going with 10 foot, and I think they require maybe like a 22 foot road. It's just kind of it gets obnoxious on some of these lower volume roads. They don't have the traffic data, I guess, all their roads is just higher volume roads. So these are some lower volume roads. So we're just asking for that to kind of match the same neighborhood roads that are leading up to it. But there's some other things too. The other items are like the 3-to-1-4 slope instead of 4-to-1. Some of those issues too, Gary, are dealing with right of way, trying to keep it within the footprint that we have, so you don't have to purchase right of way and all those things outside of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have a motion to?
We do these together. We need to do them separate.
I think we need to do them separate. Two different bridges. So the first, do we have a motion to adopt a resolution to confirm to the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development to move forward with this development of the bridge?
I'll make a motion to.
We have a motion by Mr. Jeff Ard. And we have a second by Mr. Bubba T. Harris. I call for the vote.
What did you say?
Bubba T. Harris?
Bubba C.
Bubba C.
Bubba
It's been a long night.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Mack. Mr. Akers.
Yes.
Mr. Louisville. Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. You gonna go home, man? You gonna stick to it? All right, stay around.
Hey, I got a question.
We gotta do the second one?
Okay, one more.
I make a motion to accept this.
Wait, do we have a motion for that one?
I make a motion to accept the
We have a
second.
motion to accept
That's
George
the,
Mason Road.
the waiver.
George Mason
on George
Road Bridge.
Mason Road, yes, correct. We have a second by Mr. Tab Lobel. I really appreciate that. And I'd call for the vote to move forward on that one also.
You want me to say what y'all are voting on?
Yeah.
Okay, this, this one is the use of the 24 feet clear roadway bridge, the use of 3-to-1 forest slopes to natural ground, the use of the guidelines for a geometric design of very low volume local roads by that, I guess it's AASHTO, for the determination of the horizontal curb rates in the vicinity of the replacement bridge for George, how do you say that?
Sean.
Okay, road. So we got Mr. Ard made the motion, Mr. Louisville made the second, and Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King. Yes. Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Louisville.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes. All right.
Chad said.
Item number 16. This is an introduction of an ordinance to amend section 2-2 Livingston Parish Council regular and special meetings, setting the time of the meeting from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And I'd like,
Wait,
14.
For June 4th.
Yeah.
Dissolve it.
golly, I guess I skipped around so much.
Yeah,
Oh, we
it's
just had
been
a
kind of
public hearing.
tumultuous night, it's okay.
Okay, let's go back to number 14. Public hearing and adoption of LP ordinance number 18-30. Dissolution of Juban Park Community Development District located in Council District 6. I'd like to open the public hearing.
We'll read it by title real fast.
And Miss Sandy's gonna read it by title,
Real fast.
real fast.
Okay. This is proposed ordinance 18-30. This is an ordinance dissolving Juban Park Community Development District within the parish of Livingston, state of Louisiana, in compliance with the provisions of chapter 27B, title 33, of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950, as amended, Louisiana Revised Statute 339039.11 to 339039.37 include.
All right. So is there, we have here Mr. George McAllen with Quality Engineering to help us on this particular topic, explain what's going on here.
Again, yes, sir. George McAllen with Quality Engineering. What this is the dissolution of the Community Development District to clean up the title so that the property can be, or the remainder of the property that was not developed thus far can be put back into commerce. There is a buyer that is interested in getting all this stuff cleaned up so he can purchase it.
Okay. All right, is there any more discussion on this particular item? Sandy?
I just want to say, Mr. Chris has evaluated everything with their attorneys and
All good?
It's on the up and up?
Yep, nice.
I'll make that motion.
All right, I need to close the public hearing. All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I'll second.
We have a motion by
Yeah.
Jeff Averett. We have a second by R.C. Bubba Harris. Is there no,
Just good, no discussion.
is there any, what?
After a vote, you would call for discussion. If there's, because you really,
well, they did that in the public hearing.
oh, yeah. so-
Let's go.
Okay, can we call for the vote?
Mr. Grellenhouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Mr. Matt. Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Louisville.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much,
George.
Mr. George.
Glad you was here for 3 hours.
All right. Item number 16, introduction of ordinance to amend section 2-2, Livingston Parish Council, regular and special meetings, setting the time of the meeting from 6 o'clock p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m.
Take a bad night to bring it up.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that if we do that, we dog them off at 8 o'clock, no matter what.
Well, I was gonna ask, I mean, is there a way for me to be fired from this position?
Yes. Yeah, it takes
That's a
5 votes.
possibility.
5
Well,
votes.
this tonight was an unusual situation.
Yeah.
We've had these before.
It's not a big deal.
Just never had it on your first time out the chute.
Right, I mean, it was the same
Somebody put me on your mind.
Okay, so,
This is true.
if any discussion.
Do you wanna get a motion and a second, and then I'll read it to see?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Let's,
Let's
discuss it.
is there any discussion on this particular
let's discuss it.
topic in any way, shape, or form?
Which item we talking about?
I'd like for Sandy to actually read it, so people know what it says, so you can discuss appropriate matters on this particular ordinance.
And this will be proposed ordinance 19-2. This is an ordinance to amend section 2-2 Livingston Parish Council, regular and special meetings of the code of ordinances of Livingston Parish Council, limiting the time and hours of regular meetings of the Livingston Parish Council from 6 o'clock p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. And the public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on January 24th, 2019.
Okay, is there any discussion from the council?
I got some. I know a lot of this is about me and a couple of us that work late in the afternoons. It's tough on me to get here a lot of times, but I know 7 o'clock's pretty late too, on a lot of you guys.
I don't care.
So I'm good with whatever y'all want to do.
You okay with 6?
I'm almost happy to-
6:30.
I think 6:30 would be
What if we
better
cut
than
it,
7.
go halfway and go
That's what I say
6:30?
too, Jeff.
Well, the kind of reason we're doing the 7 was we were gonna have a standing ordinance committee meeting, and we were gonna try to utilize the ordinance committee in an effort to kind of reduce meeting time by trying to hammer out some of these ordinances in a public hearing and utilize the committee system as it was designed. I mean, that was the reason for moving the meeting to 7, plus it allowed the general public an opportunity to go home and do what they need to do and get here in a timely manner. Look, y'all all know that this 2-hour and 54-minute meeting that we've been sitting in is unusual.
Very unusual.
And, you know, we've had, one of these since we've been here. This will be number 2 in a 3-year, starting our 4th year.
But we have a new chairman and co-chair now.
Well, I mean, I understand.
Are you saying that might be what's dragging it out?
Yeah.
That's where I'm
We
going.
ain't had enough to know that for a fact. Just throw that out there.
Let me tell you, there's one of us that don't like to listen, and then one of them like to listen to everybody. So I mean, we just try to work
this out. Okay, so to me, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
It's irrelevant, that 30 minutes, 6:30 or 7, is that really gonna change anything? If we go to 7 o'clock, it should drastically change the way we do business for the better of the people. Because a lot of times we had to cancel ordinance committee meetings and different things. If you out there, can get there at 6 instead of whatever.
Well, can I ask?
Yes, your turn.
Mr. Chairman, the ordinance committee meeting generally lasts what? You're giving yourself an hour?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're giving ourselves an hour. Basically,
This is what I was gonna say. Why don't you have it like the finance committee meets the second Thursday of the month? Why don't we move it to 6:30 and have y'all's at 5:30 on the second Thursday of the month? I mean, you still have to be here.
Yeah, but it doesn't eliminate the getting here.
Whatever.
That's the problem.
I don't.
Yeah.
Who on the ordinance committee has to? I guess.
I'll be honest with you, man. I enjoy the meetings, and I I'm really not in the gigantic curve. I know y'all not either, but I mean, if it lasts till
Never.
8:39, I'm good with it.
So are you saying leave it at 6 or go to
No,
7?
start at 7. And if it goes to 8:30, I mean,
That's about us.
That's past Bubba's bedtime.
It wasn't, we kept them out till 10 last night.
Well, look, it's not just about us. We have the ladies that
Right.
have to stay late,
Yeah.
Mr. Chris Moody and the newspaper. There's a lot of people that,
but we talked
and they
about,
probably want to get home. I mean,
and really another reason why we wanted to give the general public an opportunity to get home and take the shower and to get up here. I mean,
Yeah, I like having more constituents here to show me how they feel instead of.
it was a rough
getting-
night, but I mean, I enjoyed it.
Oh, me too. It was fun.
And I
I
was
make a
thinking
motion
that
that we go to 6:30.
I'll second that.
we have a motion on the floor that we change the meeting start times from 6 to 6:30 by Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse, and we have a second by Mr. Jeff Ard. Is there any discussion? Can I call for the vote?
We can always change it.
This is just an introduction.
This is just an introduction.
Can be changed.
Yeah,
It can be amended.
Yes.
indeed.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
I don't know. Yes, that's
Typical
fine.
answer from him.
That's fine.
Mr. Talbert.
Yeah.
Mr. Mack.
That's
Yes.
not true, Scott.
I'm messing with you.
Yes.
Mr.
I
Lavelle.
apologize to them.
I'm sorry. It's not his typical answer. Normally he can't make up his mind.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
I'm sorry again.
All right.
We'll decide in 2 weeks on January 24th.
Yes.
right. So-
discussing it at 6 o'clock on January
I don't really care, I just want to like,
21st, right?
Next meeting.
We don't move on.
Okay, moving on to item number 17 is the introduction of an ordinance to amend drainage impact study ordinances by modifying the percentages and yearly requirements in ordinance committee consideration recommendations.
Who put all this on one night?
Mr. Gary Frog Talbert, has the floor.
This is the introduction, if y'all look at, y'all were given
I read it.
5 or several packets. The last one is the ordinance 19 dash whatever. And it outlines all the changes in the building code. Basically, it requires that if you have a subdivision without improvements, you have to have a drainage impact study. It says that in 3050, basically is the same thing, that it's just consistent, that in stage 3, you gotta have an impact study no matter if you have 10 lots or less than 10 lots. Section 1357, it basically, what it amounts to, it cleans up some language, it eliminates some weight, it eliminates the ability to not have some drainage impact studies on certain things, and then requires that you have 25-year be the minimum stormwater event that or rain event that you analyze. It requires you to retain 25% of your water through, have a 25-year retention. It requires no increase during the 24-hour event with the 25-year rain. It continues to allow you to have interior drainage design at 10, but you still have to have 25-year on the discharge. And then it specifically identifies which method you're using to calculate the rain flow, and then it also causes you to look at the 100-year storm, 100-year design storm, or the 100-year stormal design, so that you can determine what the impact downstream is, and you'll know what impact you have on your neighbors, so that even if you're designing for 25 and retaining 25, you gotta look at the 100-year storm and you'll figure out what the downstream impact is. We all know that, you know, our constituents feel that development and rapid development has caused a lot of our issues. So, you know, we are the only parish left with 10-year stormwater study and then 10-year retention. Am I correct, Chad? Everybody else is 25 or 100, right?
Yeah, that's pretty close to it. I mean, most of the regional area has that 25, and some of the local cities have as well.
And so I think, given the impact of what we've suffered since 2016, and you can all see it, we're having events monthly that cause people to worry. So,
Yes.
so for us to continue to stick our head in the sand and leave it at 10, we just need to look at a 25-year event and retain a 25-year event with no net increases. And we'll discuss this next Thursday night at 6 and ask everybody to come input and engineers to come input. I think Chad's got a couple things he wants to look at before that, but I'd like to make a motion.
So we can amend this as we go too. Oh, and
Absolutely,
okay.
but
And two, if
Well, I
we
saw
have
some
to,
wording
we
that
can,
I'd like to see. It's a little different, not like.
I mean, we can, if we decide in an ordinance committee meeting that we need to make more changes, we need more time,
Always work on it.
we can just postpone
All right,
the,
I'll second that.
But, yeah, I mean, I think if you'll go home and read it, you'll find out that.
Oh, yeah.
that
Makes-
all we're-
makes a
that
lot of
all-
sense.
That all we're
That's what I
doing
wanna
is
do,
is
go home
look
and
at, 25 years. Chad, do you have any comment?
I think everything sounds good. I mean, that's up to you guys on the 25-year storm. I think the amount that you're talking about from the 10 to 25 is not really a substantial amount to hurt your development.
Okay. Yeah, well, we take that into consideration too. You don't want to hurt. Yeah.
okay,
Make
so,
houses too expensive. for
so there was
people
some
to
good
buy.
discussion. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to, talk about this topic? No. Good. Okay, so do we have a motion to introduce this ordinance? Do we have an
I'll
ordinance?
make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Gary Frog Talbert. We have a second by
Tracy.
Don't point at him. No, he
Scooter
can have it.
King?
No, let him
Yes.
have it. I don't care.
Good.
Does it matter?
Do we have a second by Mr. Scooter King?
Yes, you do.
We have
I'll
a second by
third
Mr. Scooter King. I'd call, you need to read
I
it.
don't know what I'm doing anymore.
We'd like to read it, make sure we know what we're voting on.
Okay, this will be proposed ordinance 19-03. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 13, Plan and Development, section 13-49.3 submittals, section 13-50 procedures for subdivisions with improvements, section 13-57 drainage impact study, section 13-57.1 drainage impact study, drainage design requirements, section 13-59 driveway culverts and or subsurface drainage, section 13-66.2 mobile home parks of the Code of Ordinances in and for the parish of Livingston. The public hearing will be on January the 24th at 6 p.m.
All right,
Thanks.
and
Appreciate
now
it.
we can vote.
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wasco.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yeah.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Lidbell.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Next.
Item 18.
18.
Okay,
Tracy.
item number 18. Adopt a resolution to grant a waiver request that will allow a mobile home to be placed at 31185 Walker North Road, Walker, Louisiana, that is located in a named subdivision, North Walker Acres, thereby permitting a second address to be issued to an ascending, descending heir, son, and granddaughter that meets all other ordinance and permit requirements. Mr. Tracy Girlinghouse.
Okay, so these is a piece of property that goes directly off of Walker North. I don't know in the situation occur where they call it a neighborhood, but it's not a neighborhood. It's just
Every subdivision, every subdivision property
Yes.
is a named subdivision. It wasn't a subdivision of a stick-built house.
no, it was not. It's basically property that goes straight up. Go ahead.
Almost like a minor subdivision. It wasn't a subdivision that was built with improvements.
It's just back in the
Yeah.
day when they wanted
Just
to
a
sell
division
the
of
land.
property.
They
Right.
wanted to sell it, they've named it a subdivision and subdivided it, but it's
Right.
not a subdivision.
It's
Right.
all the main road through this quote-unquote subdivision is Walker North.
How far is that, Tracy?
How
far is it up to Arnold, that far, or?
No, it's not that far.
You know where the building is with the red roof and they sell?
You really, for the record,
Oh,
should come up front and
yeah, please.
state your name and address, pretty please.
Carla DeYoung, 31185 Walker North. You know where the building on Walker North is before you get to the curve to the school? There's a red tin roof.
and they sell, it's a commercial building.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about
The old
this Powell
lumber
lumber,
company?
Powell
Yeah,
lumber.
the old lumber
Oh, the
company.
one on the
Okay.
left, yeah.
I'm right next door to that.
Okay.
I'm right next door to that.
Yeah, so that's not in the subdivision,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
out on the.
No, there
Walker
were
Knoll.
only 11 lots to begin with in Walker.
All right, any more discussion?
No, I'll make a
All
motion.
right, do we have a motion? We have a motion by Mr.
Yes.
Oh, we do have more discussion. Hold on.
My name is Adam Hendrick.
Yes, sir.
14400 Stonegate Manor, Gonzales, Louisiana. I'd like to say if we had a name trailer in a subdivision, y'all are saying no, it's in a rural development, or rural property. And if y'all are saying all of a sudden, now this one is not in the neighborhood, I'm just wondering how that is.
I can answer that, I think.
Because it
Okay,
says
so
it's clearly in
the
neighborhood.
ordinance that was involved with the situation that you're talking about states if it's in a named subdivision and that subdivision was intended for stick-built homes, then you can't put the mobile home in there. Now, this particular subdivision, to the best of my knowledge,
It's still a subdivision.
is a division
It's
of
not a
property,
subdivision.
but it's not a
Just the land was
subdivision.
subdivided.
It's not a subdivision with improvements that was designed and intended for stick-built homes. So that's the reasoning for me.
And we've had these issues ever since we wrote this ordinance. We've talked about it numerous
2
times.
weeks.
Do y'all see, like a regular, like tiny house and stuff like that, is that the same as a mobile home, or is that considered a house?
It's defined in the ordinance, and I don't have it in front of me, what a mobile home is, right?
I'm talking about like a tiny, the tiny houses, is that still considered a mobile home, or is that considered a house?
If it's got a tongue on it, I think it's considered a mobile home.
If it's a tongue, you got wheels.
Yeah, if it's got a tongue and wheels, it's considered a
tiny
mobile
house is a
home.
house.
So to answer your question, no. A tiny house is not a
Tiny house is a modular
No, it
home,
is.
it might come under a
They
modular
come with a tongue
home.
on it.
No, so you gotta build it in place, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't have wheels on
A
it.
tiny house is a mobile home?
No, it's not.
I think anything built on site,
Right,
stick,
that's what I hear one, yeah.
I think
I don't
it,
see
small
it.
house.
I think
It
that
could be
it's
a small
defined in the
house.
ordinance.
It's a small house,
can-
right.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's built in place.
All right.
Yeah,
Oh, so
if you drove past this property, you would never confuse it for a neighborhood.
No, it's.
Or a subdivision in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's the intent of the law that you have to take in, that's the way I look.
No,
You look at it
got right. I
and
think what you're asking is that on the piece that you're looking at purchasing, if you built a tiny home back there, would that be allowed?
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't see why not.
so pretty much I can build a trailer as long as they don't have no wheels or no tongue.
I think
correct?
so.
Pretty much.
Call it a house.
Call it a house.
And you dragging it in there, yeah.
The ordinance defines a trailer as so.
Yeah,
Because
right.
when you build a house, it's got different building codes.
yes, whether you take them off or not.
Thank you. Okay.
All right,
You can call the-
so
I made a motion.
You made a motion.
moving on, we had the motion by Tracy Girlinghouse. We had the second by Mr. Gary Frog Talbert. I call for the vote.
Who made the motion second, I'm sorry?
Tracy Girlinghouse made a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Gary Frog Talbert is seconding that motion.
We found the definition of what a mobile home is, but we're not worried about that.
Right.
No, it doesn't matter.
Mr. Garland.
Okay, so.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yeah.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack. Mr.
Yes.
Everett. Mr. Lidell.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Talbert.
I actually voted no, so.
Thank you.
Okay,
Can I make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
No, we can't yet, we got stuff.
all right, so
You can go, Pete.
number 19, board reappointments. Fire District 10, Shane Mack. Okay. Fire District 10 is in Holden, Louisiana, my hometown where I grew up and love that little place. And Mr. Reggie Neal is an outstanding board member for that fire district, and I'd like to
I'll make that motion for you.
We have a motion
I will
to reappoint
second.
Reggie Neal by Mr. Jeff Ard, and we have a second by Tracy Girlinghouse.
All right, somebody.
Mr.
And
Garlandhouse.
I call for
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
yes.
Mr. Everett.
Yes.
Mr. Lidell. Mr. Harris.
Yes.
You're not swifty on that.
You say all in
Okay.
favor, Shane.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
got
try
it.
that. Okay. Okay, so,
We'll get it by next time.
Gas Utility District Number 1, also, put that on the agenda. I'd like to reappoint Mr. John Helmers, who's
I'll
an
make a
outstanding
motion
member.
to reappoint.
We have a
Mr. John
motion,
Helmers.
by Mr. Jeff Ard. We have a second by Mr. Tab Lubell. Any objection?
No.
No? All in favor? Aye. Here you go. He gets reappointed.
Nice.
Okay. All right, the airport district. Okay. We have a Livingston Parish Sheriff's appointment. That,
You wanna leave, anybody talk to Jason?
I have not.
Wait,
Wait, we have someone that knows him very well on the council.
Yeah, I might know him. He wants to reappoint Mike Irwin.
Okay. So is that a motion?
Yeah, we do all three of them.
Together, right?
We can all
do
three?
all three of them
Yeah.
at one time.
Does the
All right.
council wanna reappoint Mr. Harry Wells?
Yes. Yes.
And does,
That's not my
Wait.
appointment.
What about Barry?
Yes. So, let's just go down the list. Mike Irwin, that's a Livingston Parish Council appointment. Right?
Sheriff's.
That's
Sheriff's
Sheriff's.
office. Harry
Sheriff's.
Wells is Livingston Parish Council appointment.
Yeah.
He lives
All
on
right.
John L. Lane. What's John L.
Harry
Lane?
Harry should have been my appointment.
Leave Harry, yeah, he is. Can we leave him on month by month, because if that's okay?
Now you do it by year.
I know,
Don't-
but
Just don't reappoint him, just to.
Yeah,
let
and
him-
he just
let
stays
him-
month
he
by
can
month
stay
if you don't reappoint.
that's what I'm saying, not reappointing him.
Okay, so you wanna make a motion to reappoint Mike Irwin and Barry Wall?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make that. So we got a motion from Tad.
What about Harry Wells?
We're not gonna reappoint him, we're gonna leave it month by month. And then-
Okay.
You don't have to do anything to that. It
All right.
just goes until he says to put it.
So is there any more discussion on this?
No.
All right, so we have a motion to reappoint Mike Irwin and Barry Wall to the airport district. Do we have one? Do we have one?
I made a motion.
Jeff Ard made the motion.
Tad second.
Tab Lobel made the second for that. And are there any objections? All in favor? Aye. The two are reappointed.
My wife just said, shut up.
All right. Okay, number 20, adopt a resolution to reschedule the February 14th, 2019 regular meeting of the council to attend the Police Jury Association of Louisiana Convention. So,
When we want to move it to?
When is that?
Following
February
Thursday.
14th.
We can move to the
I will be out
seventh
of
or the
town.
where's
twenty-first.
the calendar? Do we have a calendar?
It's in your packet, the last page.
That's Valentine's Day anyway.
Yeah, I gotta stay home with my wife that day, that's Valentine's.
We moved it to the seventh or the twenty-first.
Seventh.
The 7th.
I make a motion to move it to the 7th.
I'm with that.
Got a motion by Tad, a motion by
Y'all wanna-
Tracy, second by Jeff.
I don't care.
Okay, is there any discussion from the audience?
No, thank you.
Okay,
for
so we have a
asking.
motion on the floor by Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse to move this meeting to the
February
7th of
7th,
February
That's a
2019.
Thursday, right?
And there's a second by Mr. Jeff Ard.
Busy on that.
All in favor? Aye. Any objections? Motion passes to do that. Is there a district attorney's report? All right, committee reports. There's a new ordinance committee chair. His name is Gary Frogtower. We appointed him last meeting.
They like Billy Bob.
So do you have anything to say, Mr. Gary Frog?
We'll have an ordinance committee meeting next Thursday at 6 o'clock, and we'll address all the ordinance introduced tonight, and we're probably gonna try to finish up on the lot size ordinance that we talked about before and didn't get to finish.
And Frog, the guy that does want to come talk about the noise ordinance.
Right.
Mr. John Singleton.
Right, so I add that to, Mr. Johnson will talk about noise ordinance.
I got some stuff to put on there too, but we won't do
We ain't
that.
got time for that one.
So the next meeting's at 6:30.
Okay, Finance Committee, Mr. Tracy Gerlinghouse.
Really nothing new. This is first of the year, so we don't really didn't have anything much history to go on. So, but everything wrapped up pretty well. So
Sales tax,
look
Yep.
straight. So we'll have I have a more
A more
detailed,
Mo better.
You get Mo better.
Mo better report next time.
Okay. All right, thank you for that information. I would just like to thank the world for patience
Can I make a
and
motion?
kindness.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to
To
adjourn?
adjourn.
We have a motion by Scooter King to adjourn.
No, you skipped council's comment.
Council
We
did
done
about it.
commented enough.
We have a second by Jeff Averett to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any objection?